Chapter 817. Yang Qing, who had entered the desolate realm, was so calm that he was lonely, as if he did not have any emotions like a normal person. Yang Qing, who had entered the desolate realm, was overbearing and manic, filled with an oppressive force like the end of the world, causing the white-robed cultivator, who was in the advanced Yuanying realm, to shudder with fear. The white-robed cultivator snorted. Even if you have been reborn, you are still only in the golden elixir period. You can defeat us, but you are no match for an essence soul realm cultivator. You're only seeking death by looking for King Qingguan. Yang Qing, who had turned into a white, flaming person, tilted his head slightly, and the terrifying aura that could destroy everything instantly rose again. The white-robed cultivator looked at the Yin-Yang soul mourning drum, which was being suppressed by Yu Hongyan with hatred. If she had not been suppressing the Yin-Yang soul mourning drum, we could have suppressed you with this treasure. Even if we three advanced Yuanying realm cultivators join forces, even if we cannot defeat you, you will not be able to gain any advantage. The flames on Yang Qing's body gradually extinguished, and he returned to his original appearance. He looked at the white-robed cultivator calmly and did not say anything. The next moment, there was a faint flash of lightning in the void. The white-robed cultivator was stunned, and then his expression became strange as he looked at Yang Qing with a complicated expression. Yang Qing sat cross-legged opposite him, sitting upright in mid-air, with the clear Tine True water and the dazzling Tine True fire surrounding him. A crack abruptly appeared in the void, and the violent and mysterious void lightning tribulation had already descended. Everyone watched silently as the void thunder tribulation struck Yang Qing's body. With Yu Hongyan and Kong Nanhua by his side, the white-robed cultivator did not dare to act rashly, and could only watch Yang Qing go through the tribulation. He prayed in his heart that Yang Qing would fail the tribulation. He has just fought with us, and although he looks mighty, I can see that he has used up a lot of magic power. If he tries to go through the tribulation now, he will only die and be struck into ashes by the lightning tribulation. But as time passed, the white-robed cultivator's face became uglier and uglier. This was because he realized that Yang Qing's void thunder tribulation was nearing its end, and he was about to succeed. The last few bolts of lightning became the white-robed cultivator's last hope, but it was also like a death knell. Every time it rang, he would be one step closer to the abyss of despair. When the last bolt of tribulation lightning fell, Yang Qing's body shook violently. Then, a clear light flickered above her head, and a golden elixir that was flickering with purple light floated out. The golden elixir was full of cracks, but there was no aura of decay. Instead, it was as if it had obtained a new life. The golden elixir shone brightly, and a baby sat cross-legged in the light. The baby looked exactly the same as Yang Qing when she was a child. It was his Yuanying. Yang Qing's Yuanying appearance was astonishingly half black and half white. It looked incomparably strange, but also contained the profound principles and concepts of yin and yang. Yu Hongyan's cold and elegant face faintly revealed a gentle smile. Congratulations, fifth junior brother, for forming your nascent soul in the void and achieving the Yuanying realm. Kong Nanhua also revealed a joyful expression and nodded. Yang Qing, congratulations for forming your nascent soul in the void and achieving the Yuanying realm. Zhao Huan was stunned. She cheered and bowed. Congratulations, fifth martial uncle, for forming your nascent soul in the void and achieving the Yuanying realm. Zhou Yinsong's lips moved. Master, congratulations. Everyone in Xianmen Tianzong rejoiced, but the white-robed cultivator's heart fell to the bottom. He saw Yang Qing's Yuanying slowly retracting into the top of his head. Yang Qing's face was slightly pale. Before he went through the thunder tribulation, his supernatural powers were indeed not abundant. As a result, now that he had successfully formed his nascent soul, he fell into a short period of weakness. He was not agitated by the white-robed cultivator's words. Instead, after Fong Ting's transformation into sand, the scarlet ground god-eliminating formations tempering, and the massacre just now. His essence, chi, and spirit were at an unprecedented peak state, instantly bursting out. In this state, he had absolute confidence in passing the void thunder tribulation. Although there would be a period of weakness after the thunder tribulation, he could understand more heaven and earth Tao during the thunder tribulation. In the future, when he tried to break through to the middle stage of Yuanying, or even the late stage of Yuanying, his path would be smoother. Moreover, to the current him, the period of weakness after the thunder tribulation did not need to be too much of a concern. Yuanying's flowing light flashed, nourishing Yang Qing's spirit and body, allowing his weak state to be relieved rapidly. The current Yang Qing had comprehended the Tao of heaven and earth through comprehending the heaven and earth Tao. His understanding of the Tao of yin and yang had reached a rather high level. Yin and yang blended together, and Yang Qing's magic power recovery speed was extremely shocking. In just a short while, the paleness on his face gradually disappeared. He stood up and nodded to Yu Hongyan, Kong Nanhua, Zhou Yunsong, and Zhao Huan. As he stood up, the surrounding void seemed to tremble slightly. Yang Qing's expression was still calm. He looked at the white-robed cultivator and asked silently, "Whether I am Zhonglai's opponent or not, that is my business. You only need to answer me. Where is Zhonglai?" Although his tone was gentle, the white-robed cultivator felt a tremor from the depths of his soul. He looked at Yang Qing, then looked at Yu Hongyan and Kong Nanhua. Finally, he let out a long sigh. "I really don't know where King Qingguang is. We are just following orders. He appears and disappears unpredictably. We can't find him." Yang Qing nodded and did not continue to ask. The true sun fire on his body lit up again. Then, it turned into surging white fire and black smoke. He once again manifested the annihilation Yang despair domain. The white-robed cultivator roared in despair and manifested his heaven and earth avatar to fight with Yang Qing. However, it was all in vain. Although Yang Qing had not fully recovered from the period of weakness after the tribulation, he was still not someone he could defeat. Kong Nanhua looked at this scene calmly and turned to look at Yu Hongyan and the yin-yang morning drum. The Underworld Hall cultivators have a lot of blood on their hands. There is no need to keep them. Let's not keep this magic treasure. Otherwise, it will affect the power suppression of your 7 kill-star armor. It will not be beneficial for us to find Zhonglai in the future. When Essence Soul cultivators refine magic treasures, the magic treasures could not remove the connection between them unless the Mahayana magic treasure chose to reincarnate. When cultivators below the Essence Soul realm refined magic treasures, the magic treasures had a lot of autonomy. Although it was troublesome to remove the connection, it was not impossible. Yu Hongyan looked down at the yin-yang morning drum and smiled coldly. "I have the same intention. Mr. Kong, please help me." After saying that, the 7 kill-star armor shone, and the golden halberd in the red-haired girl's hand smashed towards the yin-yang morning drum without hesitation. The yin-yang morning drum was filled with shock and anger. Even though he had a life of his own, he felt slightly shocked. Are they so determined to kill King Qingguang? They were willing to give up a magic treasure that they had obtained just to maximize their combat power and kill Zhonglai. The yin-yang morning drum wanted to struggle, but Kong Nanhua had already helped Yu Hongyan. Soon, Yang Qing, who had ended the battle on the other side, came to help. Without a master to control it, the yin-yang morning drum's power was extremely limited. Facing Kong Nanhua, Yu Hongyan, and Yang Qing, who had the power of the 7 kill-star armor, the yin-yang morning drum could only bow its head and be forcibly annihilated. After putting away the yin-yang morning drum, Yu Hongyan looked into the distant sky. His gaze passed through the layers of void and landed on a huge black ball of light. He said in a deep voice, "Go to 3rd senior brother and seek Kongyu." Yang Qing nodded. "I can't confirm the exact location, but Zhonglai must be nearby, preparing to plot against Sikongyu." Although Kong Nanhua was also filled with killing intent, he restrained himself and didn't directly make a move. He stood at the side to support Yu Hongyan and Yang Qing. At the same time, he used his magic power to isolate the void of the battlefield, ensuring that the situation here wouldn't be known by the outside world. He also looked at the black ball of light and said, "Let's go." The group immediately flew towards the black ball of light. At this moment, in the world inside the black ball of light, there were layers of ghostly shadows and tens of thousands of ghosts wailing. It was as if there were endless malicious ghosts surrounding Wang Lin and attacking him. These malicious ghosts weren't ordinary ghosts. They were all extremely fierce. They were all accumulated by Sikong Yu over the years and laid down the 10,000 ghost formation. It was like a huge millstone crushing the enemies that fell into the formation. However, Wang Lin's river of forgetfulness, road to the Yellow Springs, and life and death world were extremely effective against the ghost Dao. Many of the slightly weaker malicious ghosts were immediately purified after coming into contact with the Yellow Springs true water. A large number of malicious ghosts were dragged into the ground by the bony claws that stretched out from the road to the Yellow Springs and were completely buried. Once the gate of the life and death world opened, it turned into a boundless hell. It directly swallowed the stronger malicious ghosts and completely cut off the connection with Sikong Yu. Wang Lin, who had unleashed his Yellow Springs death realm, was like the lord of the underworld. Even a 10,000 ghost formation couldn't do anything to him. Instead, it avoided him. The malicious ghosts in the formation could only find trouble with the essence soul cultivators that Wang Lin released from the Xiantian god sealing flag. However, Wang Lin was very experienced. He directly recalled the essence souls of Yu Xintao, Chao Wei, and the others, and replaced them with the essence souls of the two Underworld Hall messengers to deal with these malicious ghosts together with the former King Qingguang. The two Underworld Hall messengers unleashed layers of chaotic death aura and fought against the former King Qingguang. Although their ghost Dao techniques weren't as sharp as Wang Lin's, they weren't afraid of being surrounded by the formation. On the other hand, Wang Lin directly fought against Sikong Yu and his two ghostly deities. When ghost Dao cultivators fought with others, apart from themselves, a considerable part of their combat power came from the spirit ghosts that they had refined. Many ghost Dao cultivators became toothless tigers without their spirit ghosts. They were extremely useless. Sikong Yu's two ghostly deities were refined by him for many years. Each of them was equivalent to an essence soul cultivator. They weren't restrained by Wang Lin's divine power and could fight with Wang Lin to their fullest. Sikong Yu was different from most ghost Dao cultivators who relied on their spirit ghosts. He also had a set of exquisite ghost Dao techniques and many mysterious techniques that he had obtained from the king of the underworld. After all, he was a second-tier essence soul cultivator, so the power of his techniques was extremely terrifying. As such, although the former King Qingguang and the other two essence souls supported him, Wang Lin didn't have any other treasures with him. Therefore, he was at a disadvantage when fighting against Sikong Yu. However, Wang Lin's expression was indifferent. He calmly dealt with Sikong Yu's endless ferocious and strange techniques. Sikong Yu was hidden in the darkness. His voice seemed to be everywhere. Most ghost Dao cultivators in the world choose to refine their spirit ghosts and continuously strengthen them. However, I believe that the foundation of the ghost Dao lies in the fear of ghosts, the unknown, and the world. Controlling the fear in one's heart is the strongest ghost Dao. Chapter 8:18. Wang Lin turned a deaf ear to Sikong Yu's words. He focused all his attention on the battle and was on his guard. The majority of ghost Dao cultivators would rely on their spirit ghosts in actual combat. Many ghost Dao cultivators would nurture and refine spirit ghosts that were stronger than them in combat. Normally, spirit ghosts were at the same realm as their masters. Some ghost cultivators' spirit ghosts might even be at a higher realm than their masters. With the special effects of ghost cultivators' secret techniques, cultivators didn't have to worry about their spirit ghosts losing control under normal circumstances as long as the gap wasn't too big. Sikong Yu was different. He was at the second tier of the primordial spirit realm, but his two strongest spirit ghosts were only at the first tier of the primordial spirit realm. Although their magic power and divine powers were extraordinary, they seemed a little inferior when paired with Sikong Yu, a great ghost cultivator at the primordial spirit realm. After observing, Wang Lin was sure that Sikong Yu had established his cultivation foundation with ghost Dao techniques. He didn't first cultivate other Dao techniques before switching to ghost Dao. Under such circumstances, it was very abnormal for spirit ghosts to be at a lower level than their masters. This abnormal situation aroused Wang Lin's vigilance. Just as he was thinking, a blurry, ghostly figure suddenly fell toward him. Wang Lin frowned slightly. The Yellow Spring's true water turned into the river of forgetfulness and blocked in front of him. The blurry ghost shadow fell into the dim Yellow Spring's true water, but it wasn't purified. Instead, it swayed slightly and followed Wang Lin's magic power and divine sense back to his body. This ghost shadow didn't have any attack power, and it didn't cause any harm to Wang Lin. But suddenly, images appeared in front of Wang Lin. The images flashed quickly and finally stopped. This was a scene that didn't exist in Wang Lin's memory. But after seeing it, he was shocked. The background of the scene couldn't be more familiar to Wang Lin. Although it was very long ago, he could still tell at a glance that it was the hometown that he had lived in for more than 10 years when he was young, the small mountain village. At this moment, in the small mountain village, corpses were strewn everywhere, and blood flowed like a river. One by one, the villagers that he was familiar with in the past, the people of the same clan, had all turned into ice-cold corpses. In the former residence that Wang Lin had lived in since he was young, his parents were also lying in a pool of blood, their bodies no longer warm. Wang Lin harumphed coldly and calmed his mind. Sikong Yu's voice resounded from the void. So this is the fear in the depths of your heart. Tsk Tisk, you've already brought your family to Yujing Mountain, so it won't be easy for all of this to come true. However, even on Yujing Mountain, it's not completely foolproof. You have to be careful. One day, when you return home, you might see this scene. Wang Lin stared at the dark void and said, so that's how it is. Zhang Lai's state of mind completely collapsed back then, and his personality became distorted. I'm afraid you played a part in that. After a moment of silence, Sikong Yu sighed and said, people say that Wang Lin, the third disciple of the Taoist Gate of Wonders, is cold, bloodthirsty, and a man of few words. I didn't expect him to be so quick-witted. That's right. Back then, when I met him, he was only a cultivator in the Golden Elixir period. I casually planted a frightening ghost curse on him. I didn't expect him to have such achievements in the future. The frightening ghost curse was the ghostly shadow that Sikong Yu had released earlier. It was a supernatural technique of the ghost Dao that he had created. It was mysterious and unfathomable, and it did not have any offensive power. However, apart from a few special circumstances, it was difficult for ordinary people to prevent the frightening ghost curse from entering their bodies. Those with lower cultivation might not even notice it. The frightening ghost curse was rooted in the depths of a person's soul. It dug out the deepest fear in the heart of the person implanted, and then magnified the fear continuously, growing exponentially. During this process, the frightening ghost curse would also grow stronger due to the increasing fear of the person implanted. When Sikong Yu was satisfied, he would only need to think about it, and the frightening ghost curse would return to his body. Only cultivators who had comprehended the Tao of heaven and earth would have the fear in their hearts strengthen the frightening ghost curse. A large number of frightening ghost curses returned to Sikong Yu and were collected. Sikong Yu then used this to cultivate his own Tao technique, causing his Tao technique realm to increase. Back then, Sikong Yu had relied on the fusion of thousands of frightening ghost curses to perfect his own Tao technique. In the end, he had condensed the Dharma body of the Void Realm and reached the second level of the Primordial Spirit Realm. Usually, after the frightening ghost curse had completely strengthened, it would completely fuse with the cultivator's soul. Once Sikong Yu removed the frightening ghost curse, the person implanted would have their soul shattered and die. After so many years, Seekong Yu had rarely made a mistake when implanting the frightening ghost curse. The biggest miscalculation was Zhang Lai. Back then, the frightening ghost curse in Zhang Lai's soul rapidly strengthened, attracting Seekong Yu's attention. After Zhang Lai massacred the people of the Society of the Strong Gale, he was taken away by Seekong Yu to continue guiding the fear in Zhang Lai's heart in an attempt to strengthen the frightening ghost curse in Zhang Lai's body to an unprecedented level. During that period of time, Zhang Lai also became half a disciple of Seekong Yu. Seekong Yu was the one who imparted the ghost control technique and the poison technique to Zhang Lai, who knew that Zhang Lai would have a fortuitous encounter in the void battlefield and be trapped in a place that was isolated from the world. In that area, Seekong Yu's connection with the frightening ghost curse was severed, and Zhang Lai discovered the secret in his soul. In that place, Zhang Lai painstakingly cultivated and finally got rid of the fear in his heart. He also got rid of the frightening ghost curse, and because of that, he reached the primordial spirit realm. After Zhang Lai returned from the void battlefield, he was quickly registered in the underworld hall. At that time, Seekong Yu had matters to attend outside. By the time he returned to the king of the underworld realm, Zhang Lai had already become one of the 10 Yama kings, the new king Qingguang. Fear is the strongest power in this world. Mortals can't avoid it, and it's the same for us cultivators. Seekong Yu's hands did not stop. He commanded the malicious ghosts to surround Wang Lin. At the same time, he attacked Wang Lin with Dharma spells one after another. At the same time, he was constantly planting the seeds of fear in Wang Lin's heart. Between life and death, there is great terror. The fear of death is common to all sentient beings. In order to resist death, I have been cultivating nonstop, fighting against the heavens. A few hundred years is too little. Death of old age is just around the corner. Therefore, I have been trying my best to form the core formation and increase my lifespan by 1,000 years. A few thousand years is too little. 1,000 years will pass in the blink of an eye. Therefore, I have been risking my life to charge through the Een Fire Tribulation, the Een Wind Tribulation, and the Void Thunder Tribulation. I want to form the Yuaning Tribulation and live for 60 years. A lifespan of 3,600 years is still too little. Therefore, I want to reach the primordial spirit realm and live as long as the heavens. I'm afraid of being killed by others. Therefore, I have been honing my divine abilities and Dharma spells. I have been refining Dharma weapons and Dharma treasures. Live as long as the heavens, but there is still the nirvana of heaven and earth. Even the heavens have to die, let alone humans. Therefore, in order to continue cultivating, I have to pass through the 3 tribulations of creation. I have to continue refining Dharma treasures of creation. I have to cross the sea of bitterness. I have to survive even if the heavens and earth perish. Fear is our greatest motivation to move forward. It is the strongest power in this world. At the same time, it is also the source of our greatest distress. Seekong Yu's voice sounded like thousands of ghosts wailing in hell. "Oh, Wang Lin, have you felt the profoundness of fear?" Wang Lin was expressionless. He snorted coldly. The ancient and present world divine ability activated above his head. The door opened, and time in Wang Lin's body seemed to flow backward. The dim ghost shadow that had fused with his soul suddenly disappeared, as if it had never existed. Seekong Yu sighed. "Oh, Wang Lin, your understanding of Tao is still too shallow." His frightening ghost curse was special. Rather than saying it was a divine ability, it was more like a seed of will. It was in between reality and illusion. Even the Yellow Springs true water was fooled by it. However, because it did not contain any magic power, Seekong Yu was unable to help Wang Lin defend against the ancient and present world divine ability. He could only watch as the ghost curse was removed by Wang Lin. "I wanted to refine you into an old ghost curse user. However, since this is the case, I might as well not keep you alive." Seekong Yu's figure appeared in the dark void. He extended his right hand into mid-air, and a grayish chaotic death aura appeared. It was as viscous as a large amount of ink. Within it, Thousands of ghosts struggled and wailed and merged with the black fog. After the two merged, they turned into a white cyclone. The white cyclone turned into a huge door in the void. The divine ability of the king of the underworld's orthodoxy, the underworld God's gate. Then, tens of thousands of white arrows shot out from the gate of the underworld god, turning into an earth-shattering rain of arrows that shot towards Wang Lin. The entire area was covered by the white arrows, and even the void was pierced as if it was filled with sieves. Underworld gods enshrouded baleful arrow. 1,000 ghosts throwing arrow. Not only did the number of arrows far exceed the previous 1,000 ghosts throwing arrow, but even the arrows were more powerful than the baleful ghost arrow. The underworld gods enshrouded baleful arrow. Wang Lin's eyes flickered, and he patted the profound sky god's sealing flag. The former King Qing Guang and the two emissaries of the underworld hall stood in front of him. The three of them spewed out a large amount of chaotic death aura. Layers of gray fog enveloped them and Wang Lin, protecting them in the middle. Then it gradually turned into a giant oval egg. The Nether Sea Barrier was a powerful defensive divine ability passed down by the king of the underworld's orthodoxy. The Nether Sea, one of the 7 seas of heaven origin, did not have a stable realm passage connecting it to the vast thousand worlds. Although there were occasional cracks in the barrier, it was generally very sturdy. It could withstand the thousands of terrifying disasters in the Nether Sea without leaking out. The Nether Sea Barrier was a defensive technique created by the ancient king of the underworld after he was inspired by the barrier of the Nether Sea. This technique required at least 3 people to use at the same time. Although it could not move and its casting speed was slow, its defense was very strong. Back in the mystic heaven realm, the few emissaries of the underworld hall and the former King Qing Guang were cut off from the outside world. It was hopeless for them to wait for reinforcements. Therefore, they only wanted to escape and break out of the encirclement. Now, under Wang Lin's command, they worked together to create the Nether Sea Barrier. The berserk white chi arrow landed heavily on the Dark Sea Barrier, causing the Dark Sea Barrier to shake violently. The surface of the giant oval barrier was densely packed with holes like a beehive. However, it was still holding on. It was not penetrated, nor did it shatter. Sikong Yu waved his hand. The 2 ghostly deities beside him and the many malicious ghosts in the 1,000 Ghost Parade formation pounced on the Nether Sea Barrier. All kinds of ferocious ghost spells rained down on the Nether Sea Barrier. For a moment, the Nether Sea Barrier felt like it was on the brink of collapse. At this moment, a dot of light suddenly flashed in the pitch-black sky that was enveloped by the 1,000 Ghost Parade formation. It was the sharp light at the tip of a greenish-black halberd. This dot of light pierced through the layers of darkness and crushed the bodies of countless malicious ghosts. Everything in its path was destroyed. It instantly arrived in front of Sikong Yu and pointed at his forehead. At this moment, endless green flames lit up wherever the greenish-black halberd passed. It lit up half of the pitch-black space in the 1,000 Ghost Parade formation. It was a patch of green under the night sky. It was as if the endless power of the Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, true brilliance, was gathered on this spear, forming a terrifying destructive power that could shatter the heavens and earth. Zhang Lai's strongest martial path mystic technique, the Grand Divine Brilliant Spear. The green flames illuminated Sikong Yu's face. It also allowed him to see the army-vanquishing monarch halberd held firmly in 2 hands. He saw Zhang Lai's smiling face in front of him. "Master Yu, do you feel the wonderful taste of fear now?" Chapter 819. Since ancient times, there was a saying that the heavens were round and the earth was round. Since ancient times, there was a saying that the heavens were round and the earth was round. Huan represented the heavens, while the rules represented the earth. Zhang Lai's great rule divine brilliant spear, with its sharp spear tip, brought out the heaviness of the earth. Boundless Ksitigarbha, true brilliance, gathered together, and the dancing green flames seemed to become less lively. Instead, they seemed to have solidified. This was the strongest form of Ksitigarbha, true brilliance. From movement to stillness, it was as thick and heavy as the green earth. At the same time, the army destroyer Imperial Halberd, which was filled with destructive aura, emitted terrifying energy waves as if it wanted to destroy everything. It caused the green earth formed by Ksitigarbha, true brilliance, to shake, revealing huge cracks that resembled canyons. The powers of both sides fused perfectly, and violent energy spewed out from the cracks, producing a terrifying might that could truly destroy everything. At that moment, Sikong had used most of his energy to deal with Wang Lin. Although he was at the second tier of the primordial soul realm, he was facing Zhang Lai's strongest attack, which had been prepared for a long time. His protective dermic powers and eerie ghostly aura were rapidly shattered and turned into nothingness. Sikong Yu's expression remained calm. Zhang Lai, you're really not dead. As he spoke, before Zhang Lai's great rule divine brilliant spear touched him, Sikong Yu's body shook violently and turned completely black. His face contorted violently, as if he was howling like a ferocious ghost. Zhang Lai's eyes narrowed slightly. Ghost substitution. In the distant void, Sikong Yu's body reappeared. He looked at Zhang Lai calmly. You still have a lot to learn about the ghost Tao. Before he finished his sentence, a white light tore through the night sky and attacked Sikong Yu. Sikong Yu's pupils constricted. King Chujiang, a green-robed, middle-aged man, appeared before Sikong Yu. It was King Chujiang, who was also at the second tier of the primordial soul realm. King Chujiang smiled faintly. King Chujiang, don't you know that the mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the aureole behind? Good. Sikong Yu laughed instead. Hall Master, not only do you want to test Xianmin Tianzong's strength, you also want to get rid of me. It's just that the two of you aren't enough. Sikong Yu roared. With a flip of his palm, an exquisite pocket-sized temple appeared in his palm. It flew into midair and grew in the wind. Amidst a loud rumble, the temple emitted a black light that blotted out the sky, transforming into a huge temple that was 81 feet tall and 81 feet in circumference. It was like the Mahavira Hall at the center of a magnificent temple that was filled with incense. However, this temple was not worshipping deities or Buddhas, but many shrill, twisted ghosts. Just by looking at those malicious ghosts, one would feel extremely uncomfortable. Despair, madness, twisted, and evil. But most of all was fear. Just by looking at the ghost temple from afar, mortals would be scared out of their wits and die of fright. Cultivators with lower cultivation bases would be scared out of their wits as soon as the black light from the ghost temple flashed by. Their souls would collapse, and they would fall into madness. Above the ghost temple, an extremely terrifying giant malicious ghost gradually appeared. Only the upper half of its body was exposed, while the lower half was connected to the temple's roof. It let out a deafening ghost howl, causing Wang Lin, Zhang Lai, the former King Qing Guang, and the others to feel slightly dizzy. Manifestation Grade Dharma Treasure, Fierce Ghost Temple. This was Sikong Yu's greatest trump card. His two ghostly spirits were only at the first tier of the primordial soul realm. This was also the reason why, apart from his own cultivation, most of his energy and resources were invested in the ferocious spirits temple. Generally speaking, ghost cultivators would not refine Dharma treasures. Instead, they would use all their resources to strengthen their own spirit ghosts. However, Sikong Yu's choice was to refine such a ferocious manifestation grade Dharma treasure. Once the treasure appeared, violent black light swept out continuously, directly blocking King Chujiang's Dharma technique. The giant ghost on the temple's roof opened its arms and grabbed at King Chujiang. With a swipe of its claws, the chaotic, deathly aura protecting King Chujiang's body was destroyed. King Chujiang's eyes flashed. There's something strange about this Dharma treasure of yours. No wonder you gave up on strengthening your spirit ghosts and refined this Dharma treasure. It turns out that you have ulterior motives. Sikong Yu said slowly, I'll return the word's ulterior motives back to you. From Zhang Lai's attack, to Sikong Yu using the ghost substitution technique to dodge the grand divine brilliant spear, to him utilizing the ferocious spirit temple to face King Chu Jiang. Everything had happened in an instant, and it was only in the time it took for a spark to fly off a flint. However, at this moment, Wang Lin, who seemed to be suppressed by Sikong Yu to the point of being unable to retaliate, suddenly moved. The giant heaven and earth avatar suddenly let out a soundless cry. As Wang Lin's Dharma power surged, he activated the true and false world divine ability, targeting Sikong Yu. The illusory world interfered with the real world. Sikong Yu, whose attention was attracted by King Chu Jiang and Zhang Lai, was slightly dazed. He wanted to resist, but he was already half a step too late. It was this half a step's difference that turned the real into the false. Sikong Yu's body was originally below the fierce ghost temple, but at this moment he suddenly changed his position and returned to where he was standing in the beginning. At this moment, Zhang Lai's great rule divine brilliant spear was already inches away from him. Originally, Sikong Yu using the ghost substitution technique to shift his original position and avoid Zhang Lai's spear was what really happened. But now, everything had become fake, as if what happened before was just an illusion. The real reality was that Sikong Yu was still at his original position, facing Zhang Lai's great rule divine brilliant spear head-on. Everything happened in an instant. At this moment, Zhang Lai's great rule, divine, brilliant spear hadn't even touched the ghost, and Sikong Yu had already returned to his original position. This time, at such a close distance and in such a short period of time, even Sikong Yu didn't have the strength to dodge a second time. He roared and manifested his void, returned dermic body. The upper half of his body was that of a malicious ghost, and the lower half of his body was that of a black mist. He blocked Zhang Lai's spear with all his might. He was a ghost cultivator. Regardless of whether he cultivated dermic techniques or not, his defense was on the weaker side, and his defensive techniques couldn't be used. Even if his cultivation base was higher than Zhang Lai's, it was still extremely dangerous for a martial arts expert like Zhang Lai to get close to him. At this moment, Sikong Yu didn't care even if he had to damage his void returned dermic body. Otherwise, Zhang Lai's full-powered attack would severely injure him. Even so, Sikong Yu didn't have it easy either. The arms of his void returned dermic body were directly crushed by Zhang Lai's spear. Sikong Yu's void returned dermic body revealed a sinister expression. With a furious roar, he opened his mouth and swallowed the underworld god's gate that had attacked Wang Lin. At this moment, the biggest threat to him was still Zhang Lai, who was very close to him. A ghost cultivator being approached by a martial artist was definitely a disaster. The void returned dermic body that Sikong Yu had transformed into opened its mouth and spat a mouthful of air at Zhang Lai. A stream of white smoke rushed toward Zhang Lai like a great river. Everywhere it passed, a black mark was left in the space, and the entire void was turned into nothingness. At the same time, Sikong Yu immediately summoned his many spirit ghosts to protect him, while the ferocious spirit temple blocked King Chujiang. Under Sikong Yu's control, this manifestation-grade dermic treasure was almost equivalent to a second-tier essence soul realm expert. Unfortunately, King Chujiang came prepared. He held back the ferocious spirit temple, and with a wave of his hand, he also took out a dermic treasure that looked like a cloth banner. The soul-falling banner looked like a soft cloth banner, but it was actually an extremely sharp, killing treasure. It was refined using a secret technique of the underworld hall, and when the banner swayed, it emitted a white light that landed on one's divine soul. Even an essence soul realm cultivator's essence soul would become unstable if they were hit by the white light, and they would be greatly restricted. In particular, King Chujiang's soul-falling banner was also a second-tier essence soul realm dermic treasure. Wherever the white light passed, Sikong Yu's void returned dermic body was severely injured again. At this moment, the lower half of Sikong Yu's void returned dermic body disappeared. The many spirit ghosts, including the two ghostly immortals, also suffered heavy losses when they came into contact with the white light. The two ghostly immortals could still withstand it, but the other spirit ghosts were reduced to ashes. After Zhang Lai severely injured Sikong Yu with his spear, he didn't dare to be careless when facing Sikong Yu's fierce counterattack. At the same time, he used the 13 lunar halberds to defend himself. However, Sikong Yu's attack had completely unleashed the power of the gate of the underworld god. Zhang Lai's 13 lunar halberds couldn't completely block it and were injured by the white light that broke through his defense. But at this moment, Wang Lin attacked again. The huge palace of light and shadow above the heaven and earth Dharma idol suddenly materialized and smashed down on Sikong Yu's head. The pitch-black palace was extremely ferocious, and it kept expanding in the void. It was as majestic as a city. The main entrance of the palace was like a city gate, and all the bricks that formed the palace were pitch black. When one approached it, one could clearly feel the heavy power contained within. It was a unique aura that seemed to have solidified between the cycle of life and death. Stepping on the path of life and death, a bridge that connects yin and yang. The bridge of helplessness connects to Emperor Yan's hall, and within Emperor Yan's hall, yin and yang are judged. After Wang Lin's Yellow Springs Path, River of Forgetfulness, and Bridge of Helplessness, the fourth Yellow Springs technique, Emperor Yan's hall. When this technique was used, Sikong Yu, King Chujiang, and Zhang Lai's expressions changed slightly. Sikong Yu was held back by the soul-falling banner and Zhang Lai. He could only watch as Wang Lin's Emperor Yan's hall smashed heavily on the head of his Void Return Realm ghostly physique. With a boom, Sikong Yu's Void Return Realm ghostly physique cracked inch by inch. He suffered another serious injury, and his Dharma body almost shattered. Zhang Lai was also extremely ferocious. He forcefully suppressed his injuries and took the opportunity to turn the Army Destroyer Monarch halberd around. He used the Great Rule Divine Brilliant Spear to attack Sikong Yu. Sikong Yu's return to Void Stage Ghost Body suddenly turned green. Then, a large amount of green blood splattered through the air. This was the culmination of all of Sikong Yu's poison techniques. Even the soul-falling banner began to emit wisps of green smoke as it was being corroded. Wang Lin's expression remained unchanged. He slapped the pole of the dark sky god sealing banner, and an emissary of the underworld hall rushed forward in despair, blocking the green blood for Wang Lin. However, Zhang Lai didn't care. He allowed the poisonous blood to splatter on his body and continued to stab his spear at Sikong Yu. He completely shattered Sikong Yu's Void Return Realm ghostly physique, revealing his weakened primordial spirit. Facing Sikong Yu's surprised expression, Zhang Lai chuckled. Haven't you always wondered how I got rid of the poison you left in my body back then? To be honest, I obtained a green-scaled silkworm that can repel all poisons. Although it's not that I'm completely immune to all poisons, at least I'm not afraid of you. As he spoke, he continued to attack Sikong Yu. On the other side, King Chujiang had forced the ferocious ghost temple to retreat. He put away the damaged soul-falling banner and also rushed towards Sikong Yu. The two of them stood on the left and right, unleashing their violent powers. They wanted to kill the disobedient King Sikong Yu once and for all. After dealing with Sikong Yu, I'll kill this Wang Lin as well. I can't let him continue to grow. Just as King Chujiang's thoughts reached this point, a cold light suddenly flashed before his eyes. He turned around in shock and saw a white-haired old man in white who emitted waves of cold air. He's Elder Ice of the Heavenly Lake sects Elder Ice and Elder Fire. But how is this possible? Behind Elder Ice, the white-haired Wang Lin in purple stood silently in the air with the dark sky god-sealing banner in his hand. His eyes were cold. The mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. Chapter 820. The previous King Qin Guang and the rest of the envoys of the Hall of the Dead had already disappeared. Only the Ice Elder of the two Elders of Ice and Fire was left in front of Wang Lin. The Ice Elder's gaze flashed with humiliation and helplessness. His immortal soul had a subtle connection with the heavenly God-sealing banner in Wang Lin's hand. Sikong Yu, King Chu Jiang, and Zhang Lai were stunned. Because of the uniqueness of the heavenly God-sealing banner, Wang Lin had always commanded Chao Wei and the other immortal soul first-level cultivators to battle. That was why they thought that the banner was still in the gestation realm. But now that they saw how the heavenly God-sealing banner restrained the Ice Elder, they understood that the banner was in the metaplasia realm. When this magic treasure followed Wang Lin into the void battleground, it was still in the gestation realm. After Wang Lin returned to Mount Yujing and before he left again, Lin Feng kept the banner for a short period of time. When Wang Lin and the rest formed the nascent soul, they were half of Lin Feng's disciples. Lin Feng received a reward from the system. He could upgrade any magic treasure from the gestation realm to the metaplasia realm, except for his natal magic treasure, the Bell of Destiny. Lin Feng had not used this reward. That was because besides the Bell of Destiny, the other magic treasures were not very meaningful to him. After deciding not to invest in the Saros magical tree, Lin Feng's gaze landed on the magic treasures of his disciples. Undoubtedly, before Xiao Yin, Wang Lin and the rest reached the immortal soul stage and cultivated the virtual entity. The magic treasure with the highest return on this investment was Wang Lin's heavenly God-sealing banner. When the heavenly God-sealing banner reached the metaplasia realm, it could restrict immortal soul second-level cultivators. At this moment, the heavenly God-sealing banner contained the two elders of ice and fire of the Heaven Lake sect. However, Wang Lin was only in the advanced Yuanying stage and could only control one of them. He could not control the other immortal soul first-level cultivators at the same time. However, even so, he was still extremely useful now. Although he was in the heavenly God-sealing banner, the Ice Elder was still a cultivator in the immortal soul second level. Without considering the strength of his magic treasure, he was not inferior to Sikong Yu and King Chu Jiang in their normal state. After the Ice Elder appeared, Wang Lin patted the flagpole without hesitation. The Ice Elder was expressionless. His figure changed and turned into a wispy blue light. In the black void space, he was like an icy fog. He had actually revealed his virtual entity directly. Cultivators of the immortal soul second level had to reveal their virtual entity so that their powers would be maximized. However, normal cultivators of the immortal soul second level would not reveal their virtual entity so easily in order to prevent damage to their virtual entity. Wang Lin did not care about this and immediately asked the Ice Elder to reveal his virtual entity. As the wispy blue light flashed in the sky, it turned into a bright blue ice sword and slashed toward Zhang Lai. Zhang Lai's expression changed, and he was forced to stop in his tracks. He gathered all his strength and used the divine spear of earthly reality to counter the ice sword formed by the Ice Elder. As ice and fire clashed in the heavens and earth, Zhang Lai let out a groan. If he was in his peak state, he would still be able to fight the Ice Elder with his royal extermination poleaxe. However, he was already injured by Sikong Yu's counterattack. Now that the Ice Elder appeared, Zhang Lai was at a disadvantage. The ice sword formed by the Ice Elder's virtual entity released layers and layers of white, icy fog in void space. It was the Burning Ice spell. Although he was trapped by the heavenly God-sealing banner, the Ice Elder's thoughts, experience, and judgment were still present. After fighting with the royal house of the northern tribes for his entire life, he was most proficient in fighting against martial arts cultivators. As the sword radiance and icy fog attacked, Zhang Lai was forced into a corner. On the other side, as Sikong Yu was no longer trapped by Zhang Lai, he could finally take a breather. The black light world formed by the nightly ghost grand formation retracted and converted into a light ball that wrapped around Sikong Yu's broken immortal soul. However, he did not escape. Instead, a voice sounded from the black light ball. "You, Ming, Wan, Gu, Da, Mia, curse." King Chu Jiang, who was closest to Sikong Yu, retreated immediately. As Wang Lin saw this, he grabbed onto the heavenly God-sealing banner and retreated too. In the next instant, The black light ball disappeared and revealed a faint human figure. After that, countless black flowing lights filled the heavens and earth. After the black light world formed by the nightly ghost grand formation retracted, Wang Lin and the rest could see the light again. However, at this moment, the sky darkened once again. The sky was filled with black streams of light, and the sky was riddled with holes. The ground was crisscrossed with deep pits, and the towering mountain peaks were cut down like wheat being cut down. King Chujiang summoned the soul-falling banner to resist, but he was ambushed by the ferocious ghost temple from behind. Helpless, he could only reveal his virtual entity. Whereas Wang Lin summoned the Yama Imperial Pavilion once again. The huge pavilion blocked in front of him and resisted Sikong Yu's ferocious attack. A dim yellow pearl floated above the roof of the Yama Imperial Pavilion. Boundless River Styx primordial water descended and strengthened the defense of the Yama Imperial Pavilion. All these years, besides cultivating the heavenly god-sealing banner, Wang Lin had been nourishing the damaged Pearl of Styx. Although it had yet to regain its former glory, its combined power with the Yama Imperial Pavilion gave it a frightening defensive power. On the other side, Zhang Lai was in trouble. He was already suppressed by the Ice Elder. As he faced Sikong Yu's netherworld immemorial grand cataclysmic curse, he wanted to avoid it. However, the Ice Elder did not let him off. Under Wang Lin's control, the Ice Elder did not care about his own defense and continued to attack Zhang Lai. Faced with the combined attack of the netherworld immemorial grand cataclysmic curse and the burning ice spell, Zhang Lai's defense was finally broken. As balls of icy fog landed on his body, they converted into raging flames. They burned his flesh and melted the essence of his physical body. The ice sword formed by the Ice Elder's spell body even drew a weird mark in the sky. It was as if it had turned into an ice fog that could not be dispersed. It avoided Zhang Lai's royal extermination poleaxe, and with a flash of cold light, it chopped off Zhang Lai's left arm from his shoulder. Zhang Lai groaned, and his left arm started to twist. In the sky, it exploded into a ball of blood rain. A strong aura spread, as if the sun had exploded. The Ice Elder, who was also resisting the netherworld immemorial grand cataclysmic curse, did not have it easy either. Now that Zhang Lai's blood rain exploded, the cold aura around him dissipated slightly. Zhang Lai's remaining right hand held onto the royal extermination poleaxe tightly. The thick true torch of Xitigarbha almost solidified and clashed with the ice sword formed by the Ice Elder. Both parties retreated. Blood flowed from the wound on his left shoulder, and Zhang Lai spat out a mouthful of blood. However, he made use of this opportunity to escape. The vigorous aura of a martial artist caused every drop of Zhang Lai's blood to contain a strong and burning power. The true torch of Xitigarbha was also melted within. Every drop of blood seemed small, but when it landed on the ground of the southern wilderness, it immediately converted into a sea of fire. Zhang Lai's blood flowed continuously as he escaped. Behind him, there was a huge fire that extended for thousands of miles. The Ice Elder did not chase after Wang Lin, but Zhang Lai was not relaxed. Wang Lin did not chase after him because of Sikong Yu and King Chujiang. However, there was another possibility, which was that Wang Lin knew that he did not have to chase after him. Indeed, Zhang Lai's heart skipped a beat. He stopped in his tracks and looked around calmly. The flowing sand river appeared and covered the entire sky. All that was left was a patch of black and yellow. Zhang Lai did not speak. The burning ice on his body was still corroding his powers. He tried to break through this spell to prevent his powers from deteriorating further. At this point, Yu Hongyan, Yang Qing, and Kong Nanhua traversed the flowing sand river and came in front of Zhang Lai. Kong Nanhua looked at Zhang Lai calmly. "Zhang Lai, you can't escape." Zhang Lai looked at him calmly and smiled. "Nanhua, you will realize one day that I'm right. You have your path, and I have mine. Since we have different paths, we can't work together." Kong Nanhua's gaze was cold. "Wang Lin has already told us about your relationship with Sikong Yu. However, This cannot change the fact that you have committed many evil deeds. You deserve to be punished for your actions. Zhonglai laughed. I want to kill Sikong because he is using me as a puppet. It's like using my body to nurture the frightening, ghostly curse. He's using me to nurture the frightening, ghostly curse. If I don't kill him, I won't be at peace. However, this path is ultimately my own choice. Even without Sikong Yu's frightening, ghostly curse, I'll understand what I want one day. If I don't, then that's the real tragedy. The wishes of my people, the hatred of my fellow countrymen, the hopes of my fellow countrymen, and the strength of my enemy. All these shackles make it hard for me to breathe. I can't even see myself clearly anymore. Zhonglai laughed. I hate Sikong Yu, but I'm also grateful to him for helping me see myself clearly. If not, I would still be shackled by these shackles for a long time. I might not even know what I want until the day I die. Zhonglai lowered his head and laughed in a low voice. Ha ha ha, repentance? Turn over a new leaf? I've already repented, understood, and changed. That's why I'm so happy these few years. If not for the fact that all of you entered the Xianmen Tianzong, I would have left the greater world to avoid provoking the leader of the celestial sect of wonders. I think I will be happier. He lifted his head and looked at Yang Qing, who was silent. He laughed. Just now, I was busy dealing with Sikong Yu, so I didn't notice. Now, I realized that Miss Fang's soul seems to have been destroyed. Fang Ting was cultivated into a poisonous ghost by him. Zhonglai could feel her life and death. He looked at Yang Qing and laughed. I wonder how Miss Fang ended her life? Don't tell me that you're going to do it yourself. Nanhua made her choice. It seems like you made the same choice too. Or perhaps she chose to end her own life. Did she not want to put you in a spot? Or was she afraid that you would choose to hand her over? Did she not want to face that cruel scene? Did she not want to face the wrath of the great Qin Empire? Although Zhonglai was in a sorry state now, as he was missing an arm and was covered in wounds, he revealed a smile on his face. But even if she did, would the great Qin Empire, great Baron Sword Sect, Sword of Radiance Sect, Samsara Sect, and the Path of the Heavenborn let this matter rest? There are many things that can't be written off just because of death. Yang Qing looked at Zhang Lai expressionlessly. His black and white eyes revealed a cold, bloody radiance. Slowly, he said, That's right. There are many things that can't be written off just because of death. Chapter 8:21. Yang Qing looked indifferently at Zhang Lai, silently saying, After Tingting died, I fell into a very strange state. On one hand, I was furious and wanted to tear you to pieces. On the other hand, I felt my mind was unprecedentedly clear and calm. Many things that I couldn't understand before gradually became clear. Zhang Lai, you are the main culprit, the source of everything. I naturally have to find you for revenge, both for Tingting and for those who died in vain. Yang Qing's tone was calm, as if she was talking about something that had nothing to do with her. I once thought that no matter what, I would protect Tingting. She herself is a victim. The debt of blood on her body will be borne by me. The Qin dynasty, Celerita's sword sect people came to Kunlun Mountain. I was willing to die as an apology to the world, only hoping to exchange for Tingting's safety. Back then, if you didn't scheme for the Taiyin water on me, Tingting and the people in the water cloud cave wouldn't have died. Yang Qing looked calmly at Zhang Lai. Now that Tingting is gone, the grievances of the countless people who died in vain may not disappear. The grievances of the living also can't be completely eliminated. Before Tingting died, she was filled with guilt. I was thinking that in the future I would work hard to cultivate, prove my soul, and obtain longevity. Not to be free and unfettered, but to practice medicine and save people. Tingting poisoned hundreds of thousands, millions of people, so I saved hundreds of thousands, millions of people. My merits and demerits definitely can't be offset like this, but at least it's better than doing nothing and only seeking death. If 100,000, a million people are too little, then 10 million, 10 million. Walking like this, when I look back, at least I won't regret saving the lives of countless people. Zhang Lai looked at Yang Qing. After a long time, he laughed lightly. "Oh, I wonder how long you can last." Yang Qing's face also showed a trace of a smile, only it was incomparably cold. "Until I die. As for you, after I kill your physical body, I will imprison your soul and make you do good and save people with me, walking down this path." The smile on Zhang Lai's face suddenly froze, slowly disappearing. His eyes exploded with a shocking light as he stared at Yang Qing. Yang Qing's one black and one white eyes only had an almost numb calmness. The light in Zhang Lai's eyes slowly disappeared, his eyelids drooping as he said lightly, "Then you will die today. I will not carry the heavy shackles on my body again." He was now heavily injured. His cultivation was much weaker than when he was at his peak. Surrounded by Yang Qing, Yu Hongyan, and Kong Nanhua, if he wanted to break out, he could only fight to the death. Zhang Lai's left shoulder's wound had been forcefully stopped by him. At this moment, the flesh suddenly wriggled, and a small green silkworm popped its head out. The green silkworm had a strange appearance. Its body was covered with fish scales, flashed, and Qing's Yang Yang's Chin Qing. The green silkworm flew out from Zhang Lai's body and floated in the air in front of him. Zhang Lai smiled and said, "You want to practice medicine and help the world. My green-scaled silkworm that can ward off all poisons must be very useful, right? You, and have Qing, you Wanglin, you, and you, and you Tiamid's laughter." Zhang Lai let go of the Army Destroyer Monarch halberd, allowing it to hover in the air beside him. Then he reached out with his right hand and grabbed the green-scaled silkworm, gripping it tightly. Zhang Lai tilted his head slightly and said with a chuckle, "Since none of you three cultivate poison techniques, I won't need this to fight you." Yang Qing looked at him expressionlessly and said indifferently, "You have lived with the green-scaled silkworm for a long time. As long as your flesh is refined, the effect will not be too bad." Yu Hongyan, who had been silent ever since they met, held the demonic dragon halberd in one hand and took out a pure white jade bracelet with the other. The space spirit jade bracelet was a treasure given to her by Zhang Lai years ago. Yu Hongyan opened his left hand, grabbed the space spirit jade bracelet, and rushed toward Zhang Lai. Zhang Lai's eyes flickered as he looked at the jade bracelet. The smile on his face disappeared as he fell silent. In the next moment, Yu Hongyan exerted force in his 5 fingers. In the silence, the pure white jade bracelet turned into powder and scattered in the wind. In a flash of purple light, Yu Hongyan, who was wearing the 7-kill star armor, was already charging at Zhang Lai. A faint sigh seemed to resound between heaven and earth. Amidst the sigh, Zhang Lai gripped the Army Destroyer Monarch halberd tightly and single-handedly swung it at Yu Hongyan. There was no Xidagarba true brilliance, no lunar true water, no infinite astral baleful energy. There was no grand divine brilliant spear, no lunar 13 halberds, no ferocious ghost burst spear, no void shattering divine spear, no seamless killing spear, no 4 symbols divine spear. There was only black flames dancing in the sky. It was the collision of the 2 divine spears of destruction from the same source. The black flames exploded as if putting an end to the past. In the next moment, Yu Hongyan turned his spear. He held the dragon demonic halberd in one hand and clenched his other hand into a fist. Like a huge hammer, he smashed it down at Zhang Lai. The exuberant fist was almost solidified. Heaven, earth, wind, thunder, water, fire, mountain, and swamp, all 8 types of phenomena appeared at the same time, combining with each other. They were constantly fusing with each other, growing at an almost endless speed. At the same time as it grew, it collapsed and disintegrated continuously, increasing to an incomparably terrifying level. 8 trigrams sky collapsing hammer. The purple light on the 7-kill star armor flickered continuously. The wild killing intent and evil aura were poured into Yu Hongyan's fist, causing its power to increase further. Zhang Lai held his army-breaching monarch halberd horizontally and blocked Yu Hongyan's fist. Even the army-breaching monarch halberd trembled violently. He sent a flying kick at Yu Hongyan. Yu Hongyan, who was wearing the 7 Killstar armor, lowered his shoulder and used the armor on his shoulder to block Zhang Lai's attack. Immediately after, the demonic dragon halberd drew a mysterious trajectory. The dark red, boundless astral chi, which looked like wind and mist at the same time, turned into a crescent moon that rolled in the night sky and fell towards the horizon. One of Yu Hongyin's seamless killing spear, Falling Moon. Zhang Lai held the army-breaching monarch halberd in a reverse grip and used the end of the dark green halberd to sweep up the Xidagarba, true brilliance, and knock it against Yu Hongyin's Falling Moon spear. The power from both sides exploded and forced both of them to retreat. Yu Hongyin was really forced to retreat, while Zhang Lai made use of the rebounding force to increase his speed and charge towards Kong Nanhua. He had no intention of fighting to the death with Yu Hongyin, nor did he attack Yangqing. Instead, he targeted Kong Nanhua. Kong Nanhua's Ganges River stretched across the horizon and was the real barrier and obstacle that blocked his way. Once he broke through Kong Nanhua's spell, he could advance and retreat at will. When the time came, he would also have more space to move around. Kong Nanhua looked at Zhang Lai coldly. Light flashed above his head and a huge figure appeared. It was indomitable. One of its hands was holding onto the rope-like quicksand of Ganges River, while the other hand was holding onto a shining golden greatsword. After revealing the Dharma idol of heaven and earth, Kong Nanhua put his palms together. The black and yellow heavenly river formed by the sand of Ganges River and the primordial true water did not dissipate. Instead, a strong wind suddenly blew. It was formless and formless, but extremely sharp, as if it could destroy everything. 9 heavens formless astral wind. Other than the 9 heavens formless astral wind, golden flames suddenly burst out. The piercing light of the true sun fire illuminated the world. Wherever the astral wind passed, the golden true sun fire seemed to scatter and scatter. However, it caused the invisible astral wind to be coated with a layer of dazzling gold. In the world, there were countless huge golden, sword-like astral winds that slashed down toward Zhang Lai. Zhang Lai's eyes burst with an astonishing brilliance. He used the 13 lunar halberds. The army destroyer monarch halberd in his hands seemed to turn into rays of green light dancing in the air. Each ray of green light seemed to have collided with a golden astral wind. The ferocious army vanquishing monarch halberd erupted with astonishing power, shattering the astral winds one after another. Just as each astral wind was shattered, endless golden flames burst out from within, exploding one after another. Layers of dark green lunar true water surged out, blocking the solar true fire. Zhang Lai used the 13 lunar halberds. First, he used a defensive stance to block the most violent wave of Kong Nanhua's astral winds. Then, he switched from defense to offense. The blazing green true earth treasury flame spread out, and the Grand Order Divine Glory spear fiercely attacked Kong Nanhua. Wherever the spear passed, it destroyed the remaining astral winds. Zhang Lai himself was also attacked by some of the astral winds, leaving terrible wounds on his body. But the Magic Treasure Army Destroyer Monarch halberd flashed with a dark green light. A hole appeared in the sky above his head. The power of the Army Destroyer star in the Milky Way allowed Zhang Lai to kill his way to Kong Nanhua. Kong Nanhua's expression didn't change. The sand of the Ganges River and the primordial true water gathered in front of him, forming the Ganges immemorial shield. Amidst the explosion, Zhang Lai's spear directly punched a huge hole in Kong Nanhua's Ganges immemorial shield. But in the end, it didn't completely break through Kong Nanhua's Ganges immemorial shield. Zhang Lai's heart sank. At this moment, his injuries were indeed too severe. Even with the Army Destroyer Monarch halberd in hand, he couldn't do anything to Kong Nanhua. Besides the Ganges immemorial shield's powerful defense, Kong Nanhua also had a powerful attack like the astral winds. After breaking through the astral winds, Zhang Lai's spear had the momentum of an arrow at the end of its flight. At this moment, it would be difficult to break through the Ganges immemorial shield. Besides the shield's sharpness, I also have to add in the spear's tip. He also suffered heavy injuries before, otherwise, he would be even stronger. If everyone is in peak condition and gives him a suitable magic treasure, even with the army destroyer monarch halberd in hand, I'm afraid I won't be able to win quickly. Zhang took a deep breath. Right now, he was also an arrow at the end of its flight. If it was just Kong Nanhua alone, he might not be able to win. As he thought of this, the boundless Ksitigarbha, true brilliance, continued to burn. Zhang continued to increase his strength, hoping to break through Kong Nanhua's defense in the shortest time possible. But at this moment, a warning suddenly sounded in his heart. The void behind him suddenly broke apart. Yu Hongyan's spear was faster than lightning, aiming straight for the vital point on his back. Heaven Law 4 Elephant Divine Spear. Lightning Elephant Spear, Starry Galloping Lightning. After being forced back by Zhang Yu Hongyan forcefully suppressed his surging blood and qi. Without stopping, he struck out with his fastest spear, aiming for Zhang Li's back. Zhang Li had the army destroyer monarch halberd in hand. Even though he was heavily injured, his strength was still extremely strong. After forcing Yu Hongyan back, he struck out with a series of killer moves, instantly arriving in front of Kong Nanhua. But after being slightly hindered by Kong Nanhua, Yu Hongyan had already arrived behind him. His speed was much faster than he had expected. With a stifled groan, Zhang Li could only give up on the idea of continuing to attack Kong Nanhua in order to break out of the encirclement. He wanted to stabilize his position first and defend against Yu Hongyan's starry galloping lightning god spear that was as fast as light. With regards to the surprise attack, Zhang Li was not completely unprepared. After all, Yang Qing was still at the side. But at this moment, he was being forced into a difficult situation by Kong Nanhua and Yu Hongyan. His heart rapidly sank. Yang Qing. As expected, Yang Qing had already transformed into a black water person. The surrounding azure fog and pale white light surged together, staring at him with a pair of emotionless eyes. In the next moment, Yang Qing clasped her hands together and pushed forward. A pale white light had already enveloped Zhang Li. Solitary tying. Chapter 822. Yang Qing performed the tying, entering solitude, and manifested the desolate Yin realm. His entire body turned into a waterman formed by the tying true water. Then, the dark green tying true water turned black. A dark blue fog floated on the surface of his body, and a pale white light flashed. Since the start of the battle, Yang Qing had not made a move. He watched the battle coldly. The fire in his heart was burning fiercely, almost driving him into madness. However, his mind was as calm as 10,000 years old ice, seizing the most suitable opportunity. If he did not make a move, then he would make Zhang Li doomed eternally. Now was the most suitable opportunity. After Yang Qing entered the desolate Yin realm, he performed the tying solitary slumber. The pale white light covered Zhang Li. Zhang Li suddenly felt his vision go black, and everything else in his consciousness disappeared. Kong Nanhua, the vast river, and the solar gale were all gone, and so were Yu Hongyan and the 7 kill star armor, who were so close to Jihao that they could easily tear a hole in his body. Heaven and earth disappeared, and the sound of the piercingly cold wind instantly stopped. In Zhang Li's mind, there was only the precise dark night left. The pale moon in the night sky was like a terrifying and strange giant eye, quietly watching him. If Zhang Li was in his peak state, Yang Qing, who was only at the early stage of yuanying, might not be able to use the tying solitary slumber. But now, Zhang Li was injured, and facing the pincer attack from Kong Nanhua and Yu Hongyan, he was immediately hit. Yang Qing's tying solitary slumber would cause the victim to fall into an eternal slumber where the soul would be separated. The soul would be assimilated and devoured by the power of Yin, turning into nothingness. At this moment, even if the body was dismembered, the victim would not be able to wake up. Zhang Li's body trembled violently. Blood and flesh flew everywhere, and the wound on his left shoulder opened up again. But he was a primordial spirit expert after all. His martial will was strong, and his primordial spirit and body were combined. After falling into the effect of the Tyene solitary slumber, he was still able to forcefully break free. His consciousness got rid of the assimilation of the power of Een, and his soul became one again. The army destroyer halberd shook, and Zhonglai shattered the pale, white light that surrounded him. Chi! Zhonglai looked down at the tip of the demonic dragon, halberd protruding out of his chest. The halberd was stained with blood, and the dark purple runes stirred in his body. After being disrupted by Yang Qing's solitary lunar slumber, Zhonglai lost the opportunity to deal with Yu Hongyan's Star Rush lightning quick spear. This spear that was faster than lightning directly pierced through his body, causing him to suffer an unprecedented injury. The 7-kill star armor on Yu Hongyan's body shone with a purple light. In the starry sky above his head, in addition to the Alcade, the starlight of the 7-kill star was also constantly flashing. Zhonglai let out a muffled groan as he spun his army vanquisher monarch halberd and stabbed it at Yu Hongyan, who was behind him. Yu Hongyan's eyebrows, which were like thin swords, were raised. Her almond-shaped eyes were wide open, with flames flickering in them. Facing Zhonglai's powerful counterattack, she clenched her teeth and used the 7-kill star armor to block it. As for the demonic dragon halberd in her hand, it emitted a buzzing sound. Formless astral winds swept out from within Zhonglai's body. 9 heavens formless astral gale. Yu Hongyan's divine spear of 4 symbols, wind elephant spear. Astral wind pierces the heavens. This spear did not take the boundless astral baleful chi's strangeness and fierceness, but rather refined the power of the 9 heavens formless astral wind. It needed an unstoppable, swift, and fierce destructive power to forcibly cut through the opponent's defense. And at this moment, a formless astral wind that was like a sharp blade that could cleave the heavens erupted from within Zhonglai's body. That momentum was about to directly dismember Zhonglai. Zhonglai's eyes flashed as he roared. A leather pouch on his body opened up, and countless black wind spirits rushed out, pouncing towards Yu Hongyan. These spirits weren't very powerful, and the way they were refined was very crude. However, the blood drained from Yu Hongyan's face, and he turned extremely pale. He was protected by Kong Nanhua's transcendence energy, but Zhao Huan, who had been watching the whole battle, was inside Kong Nanhua's transcendence energy space. When she saw this scene, she let out a howl like a wounded beast. Even though it was only a flash, but he could clearly see those grimacing faces in pain. Impressively, they were the faces of the people of the society of the Strong Gale back then. Among them were even his father and mother. Their souls were also shockingly incomplete, and after being refined by Zhonglai's secret technique, their hopes of reincarnation had already been severed. Either they would be ghosts forever, or their souls would scatter and scatter, turning to dust. Yu Hongyan's face was deathly pale, but the flames in her eyes burned even brighter. Facing those hungry ghosts that pounced to bite her body, she forcefully endured and did not make any resistance, allowing these hungry ghosts to attack her. But the power of the demonic dragon halberd in her hand increased by another level. The power of the astral wind through the deity spear was activated to the extreme. The pair of master and disciple almost simultaneously let out a low roar. The power of the army vanquishing halberd and the demonic dragon halberd exploded together. The two simultaneously flew backwards. The demonic dragon halberd was finally pulled out from Zhonglai's back, bringing with it a rain of blood. At this moment, Zhonglai's abdomen was already a mess of flesh and blood. The chi and blood of a primordial spirit martial artist that was as vigorous as the blazing sun was extremely weak, as if the sun was setting in the west. At this moment, whether it was the wound on Zhonglai's left shoulder or the wound on his abdomen, they were all being healed by a large amount of dark green lunar true water. If not for the fact that he had used the dark green true water to strengthen his body, and now that he had the dark green true water to help him recover, Zhonglai might not have been able to hold on. Other than these two major injuries, Most of the other minor injuries had already been healed by the dark green true water. But at this moment, Zhang Lai's injuries were too severe, and he was using all his strength to heal his left shoulder, chest, and abdomen. As a result, the other wounds on his body opened up again, dripping with blood. Yu Hongyan was not in a good state either. Zhang Lai's near-suicidal counterattack had been blocked by her 7-kill star armor. Although the army vanquishing halberd had not truly pierced through the 7-kill star armor, it had still injured her. For a moment, she felt as if her internal organs had shifted positions. Fresh blood flowed from the corner of Yu Hongyan's mouth, but the pain on her body could not compare to the pain and rage in her heart that was dripping blood. Zhang Lai. Yu Hongyan glared at Zhang Lai, her eyes overflowing with killing intent. Zhang Lai opened his mouth, and blood gushed out, but he still grinned and said, "Don't you all like to follow me? Don't you all like to rely on me? Don't you all like to fight side by side with me? Right now, we are all fighting side by side, aren't we?" Grains of sparkling sand flashed on the surface of Yu Hongyan's body, collecting the vengeful spirits one by one. Kang Nanhua's face was ashen. Without saying a word, the huge heaven and earth avatar waved its hand, and thousands of solar astral winds blasted toward Zhang Lai. Zhang Lai barely managed to block it, but suddenly, a sense of danger appeared in his heart again. A ferocious aura surrounded him. Yang Qing, who had executed the solar annihilation transformation and manifested the solar annihilation extremity, turned into a white, flaming man. Ferocious black smoke and black light flowed continuously around his body. 9 rays of black light floated up and down, sometimes turning into 9 dragon shadows, and sometimes turning into 9 blazing suns. 9 suns annihilation. Martial artists' chi and blood were masculine, and the pressure that this spell brought to Zhang Lai was even more terrifying than solitary lunar slumber. A true killing blow. Zhang Lai mustered his remaining courage and condensed his martial will, manifesting the light and shadow of the green sea of Fire World. The boundless Ksitigarbha, true brilliance, was condensed like the heavy earth, and the Grand Order Divine Glory Spear welcomed Yang Qing's 9 suns annihilation. 9 blazing suns rose, and 9 dragon shadows descended. It was like a terrifying apocalyptic scene, suppressing the green sea of fire to the point where it was on the verge of collapse. And at this time, Kang Nanhua's solar astral winds blasted over again. Under the combined force of Yang Qing's 9 suns annihilation, Zhang Lai finally couldn't hold on any longer, and the green earth suddenly cracked. 9 dragon shadows soared up like hidden dragons ascending to the sky. 9 blazing suns descended, like the sun bombarding the earth. The ferocious power landed on Zhang Lai's body. Zhang Lai let out a miserable groan, and finally couldn't hold on any longer. His body exploded like firecrackers from head to toe, and 9 bloody holes appeared all over his body. His entire body was on the verge of shattering. In the midst of the flames, a purple-robed, red-haired figure suddenly appeared. A spear swept up rolling thunder, and with the force of a thunderbolt, it struck Zhang Lai's body one last time. In the midst of the thunder, Zhang Lai's primordial spirit that had been tempered hundreds and thousands of times completely exploded, turning into a cloud of blood mist. Not even his bones remained. Yu Hongyan's eyes were bloodshot as he stared at the cloud of blood mist. The blood mist twisted violently, and there seemed to be light flashing within it, trying to reassemble the flesh and blood, but to no avail. That was Zhang Lai's primordial spirit that had been fused with his body. But at this moment, not only was his body destroyed, his primordial spirit was also heavily injured. Only a wisp of his primordial spirit was left, almost like a wandering soul. Yu Hongyan was about to kill Zhang Lai with a single spear strike when Yang Qing walked forward. 4th senior apprentice sister, don't be fooled. Right now, all he wants is death. At this time, the void suddenly split open, and a white-haired youth with a cold expression walked out. His face was slightly pale, and there was a faint trace of blood at the corner of his mouth. The white-haired youth was precisely Wang Lin. He glanced at the blood mist, and with a wave of his hand, the underworld pearl appeared. Mana directly sucked in the blood mist as well. Within the blood mist, Zhang Lai's unwilling roar of anger could be faintly heard. Wang Lin's Dharma of heaven and earth appeared, stretching out 8 arms and holding onto the army vanquishing King Halberd together, fiercely suppressing this primordial spirit magic treasure. Yang Qing looked at the underworld pearl and said, "Third senior brother, I'll be troubling you." Kong Nanhua waved his hand, and the sand that had wrapped around the vengeful souls of the Society of the Strong Gale all floated into the underworld pearl. Chapter 823. Even though he was suppressed by the true water of the underworld, even though he was heavily injured, right now Zhang Lai's remnant soul is still not something that the low-level, hungry ghost transformed from the people of the Society of the Strong Gale could devour or kill. It's just that being restricted by the underworld pearl, Zhang Lai is also unable to resist the biting of the hungry ghosts. The taste of being gnawed on by a group of ghosts is naturally not pleasant. It is a cruel torture rarely seen in the world. But looking at these ghost faces pouncing in front of him, Zhang Lai only felt his mind go into a trance, looking at these once familiar faces. One scene after another continuously flashed through his mind. His parents died resisting the invasion of the Great Zhou dynasty. Before his relatives died, they tightly clasped his hand, warning in a hoarse voice, "Restore the country. Revenge." Leading a group of Snowgale country immigrants, moving from place to place, fighting, fleeing, hiding. Some died, and there was also the birth of a new generation of children. That Xiao Huan who looked at him with a gaze of hatred and fear before, was once captured together with his parents by the Zhou people, and was even personally rescued by him. Zhang Lai struggled to twist his neck, looking at Yang Qing's face that was calm to the point of numbness. The scene of Fong Ting struggling in the sea of fire in the cloud water cave back then appeared in his mind. Her body was completely destroyed, her soul shattered, but she still kept repeating a person's name. The smile on the black-clothed youth's face disappeared, becoming indifferent. Senior apprentice Brother Yang? He's the person you love deeply. You don't want to be separated from him no matter what. The already shattered soul of the girl's consciousness was completely blurred. Only the obsession rooted in the bottom of her heart prompted her to reply in a daze. As long as I can not be separated from senior apprentice Brother Yang, even if I never reincarnate, I'm willing. The scene in front of Zhang Lai changed once again. The face of a red-haired youth appeared in front of him, incomparably illusory, yet incomparably clear. The youth's sword-like eyebrows reached his temples. His facial features were handsome, as if he was fearless. Zhang Lai's gaze dimmed. That was his lifelong friend, brother, Yu Hongfeng, who built the Society of the Strong Gale with him back then, but in the end died young in order to protect his compatriots. Yu Hongfeng's face gradually shook, turning into the appearance of a crimson-haired baby girl. As time went by, the baby girl gradually became a 6- or 7-year-old girl, her face full of distress, childishly complaining to him that her eyebrows were too straight, too thick, and too tough. Gradually, the little girl grew up day by day and faced the same fate as him. She followed closely behind him and faced the dangers of blood and fire at a young age. The little girl gradually grew into a young lady. Her cultivation talent was extraordinary, and he carefully taught her the Great Destruction True fire technique and the Great Destruction God Spear. Accompanying each other day and night, in life and death, Zhang Lai did not know when his heartstrings began to tremble towards this young girl who was both a comrade in arms and a disciple. The young girl also had a different kind of feeling towards this half-master who was like a mountain that held up a blue sky for her and her compatriots. However, in the face of being hunted by the Great Zhou dynasty, the two of them buried their love deep in their hearts. The only thing that was unclear was the Space Spirit Jade Bracelet. And now, that jade bracelet was finally crushed by Yu Hongyin with his own hands. Actually, it should have been broken long ago. In Zhang Lai's mind, the scene of him killing the people of the Society of the Strong Gale, and Yu Hongyin watching helplessly without being able to stop it appeared in his mind. The young girl's eyes were filled with disbelief. In that instant, her shock was more than anger and sorrow. Everything flashed through Zhang Lai's mind. Then he regained consciousness. Looking at the hungry ghosts that kept biting him, thinking of his future, Zhang Lai felt a strong sense of unwillingness. He would rather die than return to the life of being shackled and controlled by others. As expected, I love Hongyin, but I love myself even more. Otherwise, how could I hurt her like this? Although I didn't kill her, I left a bloody scar on her heart. Zhang Lai closed his eyes, cowardly and cruel, selfish and repressed. This is me. The next moment, the ghost dispersed, but Zhang Lai's broken soul was also swallowed by the Yellow Springs true water. The dim yellow true water of the Yellow Springs gradually turned black, continuously seeping into Zhang Lai's broken soul, dyeing it black, and suppressing it at the bottom of the Yellow Springs River within the Yellow Springs Pearl. After returning to the mountain, after everything has been settled, I will naturally hand this person over to you. If you want to travel the world, it's best to wait until Master returns to the vast 1,000 worlds from his death seclusion. Wang Lin put away the Yellow Springs Pearl. The image of Emperor Yan's hall appeared above his head, taking in all the hungry ghosts that the members of the Society of the Strong Gale had transformed into. Yang Qing clasped her hands towards Wang Lin. Thank you, third senior brother. His expression was as calm as before. His gaze became much gentler, but there was no joy and ecstasy of revenge. Yang Qing opened her right palm. Looking down, she saw a seemingly ordinary grain of sand, silently placed in the center of her palm. On the other side, after the battle ended, Yu Hongyin directly sat down cross-legged in the air, silently regulating her breathing. 3 people attacked Zhang Lai. She was the only one injured. As the main attacker, she directly faced the majority of Zhang Lai's attacks, and also endured Zhang Lai's counterattacks. Even though Zhang Lai was already heavily injured, and Yu Hongyin had the protection of the 7-kill star armor, but the army destroyer Imperial Halberd was extremely domineering in Zhang Lai's hands, and still injured her. Even though Yu Hongyin was concentrating on regulating her breathing, but her eyes were clearly somewhat dazed, and her mind was elsewhere. She was somewhat unable to come back to her senses after getting her revenge. Kong Nanhua's expression was calm. Even though he had damaged his own Yuanying and fought with Zhang Lai with an injured body, making him look somewhat weak, but in Kong Nanhua's eyes, there was an unprecedented brilliance. In the sky, there seemed to be a brilliance enveloping Kong Nanhua, making him faintly merge with the great way of heaven and earth. Today, to him, was a day of release from shackles that had been shackled for many years. Even though his mana and spirit were weak, his Taoist heart was no longer dusty. He had never been so close to the great way of heaven and earth, as if he could touch it. If he could recover Yuanying's injuries, Kong Nanhua could even directly break through that threshold, and his primordial spirit was in sight. Wang Lin looked at Kong Nanhua. Congratulations, Mr. Kong. Kong Nanhua looked at Yang Qing and sighed slightly. If he had to say, there was still one last shadow in his heart, and that was the guilt towards Yang Qing and Fong Ting. Back then, when facing the extremely weak Zhang Lai, and Yang Qing and the others who were trapped in the Scarlet Ground God-killing array, Kong Nanhua's heart had been in a struggle, but in the end he successfully distinguished his own path, and finally chose to let Zhang Lai go, and rush to the Scarlet Ground God-killing array to save them. Zhang Lai, ice and charcoal are not the same stove. I am different from you. The powerful words made Zhang Lai slightly dazed at that time, and he watched Kong Nanhua go to the Scarlet Ground God-killing array. But unfortunately, Fong Ting chose to commit suicide, and Kong Nanhua was still a step too late. Looking at Yang Qing, who had given up, Kong Nanhua still felt guilty in his heart, even though it was not his responsibility. Kong Nanhua shook his head slightly and calmed his emotions and asked Wang Lin, "What's the situation on your side?" Wang Lin said, "One of the underworld hall's 10 Yama kings, the disobedient king, who is also Sikong Yu, was killed by me and King Chujiang together. His Dharma treasure, the fierce spirit temple, was taken away by King Chujiang, and I suffered some light injuries, so it's not worth mentioning." He paused for a moment, and his white hair spread out behind him, fluttering in the breeze. Wang Lin's gaze turned slightly cold. "However, I keep feeling that Sikong Yu is a little strange. I suspect that he faked his death like Zhang Lai, but I can't be sure. If he really faked his death, his technique is more brilliant than Zhang Lai's. He's also more willing to use his capital." Kong Nanhua pondered for a moment. "According to what you said, his Dharma treasure, the Fierce Spirit Temple, is a transformation-grade Dharma treasure. Sikong Yu doesn't really care about spirit ghosts, and most of his life's efforts and resources are probably invested in this Dharma treasure." Kong Nanhua's gaze slightly narrowed. If he really faked his death, then his scheme is not small. Wang Lin turned to look at Yang Qing and Yu Hongyan. Seeing that his junior brother and junior sister had regained their composure, he immediately said, "A storm is brewing, and we need to immediately return to Yujing Mountain and focus on dealing with the difficulties that might appear next." Yu Hongyan and Yang Qing nodded together. Third senior brother is right. Outsiders all knew that Lin Feng's third disciple, Wang Lin, was cold, silent, ruthless, and bloodthirsty. However, Yu Hongyan, Yang Qing, and the others who had been with Wang Lin for a long time knew that this third senior brother of theirs was actually a rather scheming person. It's just that he didn't speak easily, but he always hit the nail on the head when he said it. This time, Xianmin Tianzong and his group were ambushed by Sikong Yu and Zhang Lai from the Underworld Hall. Whether it was because of personal grudges or the Underworld Hall's intention to probe Xianmin Tianzong, the result could be said to be a failure. Other than a group of Yuanying stage cultivators, the Underworld Hall also lost King of Disobedience, Sikong Yu, and King of Qingguang, Zhang Lai, the two Hall Masters. The losses could be said to be extremely heavy. Although there was internal strife between Sikong Yu, Zhang Lai, and King Chujiang, the final result was a complete victory for Xianmin Tianzong. He even seized Zhang Lai's army vanquishing halberd and another magic weapon, the Yin Yang Soul Morning Drum. The only loss was Fong Ting's misfortune and some subsequent troubles caused by the previous massacre of the city by Poison Ghost. Overall, Xianmin Tianzong could not be considered to have suffered a loss. Zhang Lai was killed, and most of his resentment was vented. Under such circumstances, it was reasonable that Xianmin Tianzong did not take the initiative to find trouble with the Underworld Hall for the time being. There was no need for Lin Feng to come forward to deal with it, and the outside world naturally could not see through Xianmin Tianzong's actual situation at this time. However, there would always be people with ulterior motives who would have evil thoughts again. Therefore, Wang Lin and the others did not stay for long and returned to Mount Yujing in the Kunlun mountain range as soon as possible. On one hand, it would reduce the risk of their group, and, on the other hand, it was also to return to Mount Yujing to strengthen their own sect's strength. Xianmin Tianzong and the others were flying in the void, but at this moment, the void suddenly opened up. Countless Buddhist lights lit up, and the vast sound of Sanskrit lingered in their ears. 5 monks rushed out of the void at the same time. 2 blocked Wang Lin, and the other 2 blocked Kong Nanhua, Yang Qing, and Yu Hongyan. The remaining monk stretched out his big hand and grabbed Zhou Yinsong. Yang Qing looked at the smiling young monk in front of her and immediately recognized the other party's origin. Monk Bao Sheng, Golden Cicada. Chapter 824. During the trip to Ming Sea, Yang Qing traveled with Xiao Yin and witnessed Xiao Yin killing Liang'an. At that time, a young monk suddenly appeared and wanted to help Liang'an, but he was forced to retreat by Yin Mingyue and the people of the Great Zhou dynasty. Later, after reporting the matter in detail to Lin Feng revealed the identity of the young monk. Monk Bao Sheng, the great sage of the demon clan, Golden Cicada, cultivated the Buddhist Dharma of the Great Lane Temple. He was one of the doppelgangers of the Golden Body Realm. At this moment, Monk Bao Sheng appeared in front of Yang Qing with a smile on his face. Buddha's light shot out from the top of his head and condensed into a huge Buddha Dharma body, sitting on a lotus. In front of the lotus, there was a moon wheel and a throne carried by 8 horses. The Buddha held the Rui bead in his right hand and the bell in his left. He was Bao Sheng Buddha of the 5 Buddhas. The 2 people in front of Wang Lin were calm and expressionless, skinny monk. His skin was dark, and he was as thin as a bag of bones. Buddha's light shot out from the top of the skinny monk's head and condensed into a huge ancient Buddha. It was pure gold and glowed with blue light. It sat on a throne carried by 8 elephants, holding a Vajra scepter and a bell. It was the immovable Buddha Dharma body obtained from cultivating the immovable Buddha scripture. The other person was expressionless, but the Buddha's light on his face revealed a sense of perfection. The Buddha's light condensed above his head and formed the Buddha Dharma body. The Dharma body held a pair of Vajras in its right hand and a bell in its left. The throne was carried by a long-horned sang-sang bird. These 2 people were the other 2 doppelgangers of Golden Cicada, Immovable Monk and Bukong Chung Monk. The immovable monk blocked Wang Lin's path, while the immovable monk Bukong Chung blocked Wang Lin's path. The Elder Hua of the Ice and Fire Elders, who Wang Lin had released from the mysterious sky god-sealing flag. Golden Cicada's doppelganger, Bukong Chung Monk, had exquisite Buddhist Dharma power and magical powers. He was not inferior to Monk Dakong, who had fought with Zhu Yi and the others in the Yingxi. Apart from that, there was also an old monk who looked rather old. His face was full of wrinkles, and 2 long white eyebrows hung down. Even his body was a little hunched. The Buddha's light above the old monk's head also condensed into a huge Buddha. It had a golden body and was emitting red light. It sat on a lotus and a full moon wheel. The throne below it was carried by 8 peacocks. Its right hand held a lotus, and its left hand held a bell. It was the uncountable light Rulai Dharmakaya. This was Golden Cicada's 4th Dharma clone, Monk Amitba. Silently, he stood in the void, holding the line for immovable Amitba and Bao Sheng. With his golden body level 2 cultivation, Monk Bao Sheng could already fend off Kong Nanhua, Yu Hongyan, and Yang Qing on his own. Monk Bukong Chung could also deal with Wang Lin's Elder Hua, who was controlled by the Xintian god-sealing flag. Monk Immovable could also stop Wang Lin. With Monk Amitba support, they could deal with Wang Lin and the others at any time. With Golden Cicada's last Dharma clone, Monk Dari could easily capture Zhou Yinsong. As Golden Cicada's Marokana Sutra was incomplete among his 5 clones, only Monk Dari, who was in the middle, was at the golden body level 1. However, it was enough to deal with Zhou Yinsong, who was only at the mid-stage of the golden elixir. Zhou Yinsong's divine powers and dermic powers were powerful, and he fought fiercely. However, the difference in realm between him and the enemy was too great, so he could do nothing. Yang Qing's eyes were spitting fire. However, Monk Bao Sheng had manifested his uncountable light, Rulai Dharmakaya, and blocked his way. Kong Nanhua and Yu Hongyan could not break through. After capturing Zhou Yinsong, Golden Cicada's 5 clones broke through the void and escaped. Send my greetings to your master, Mystic Sect Master. This young friend, please follow me to the vast land of infinite wilderness for a few days. Don't miss him. Golden Cicada's voice rang out in the void. He chanted the name of Buddha in a low voice and disappeared. The Buddhist light and Sanskrit sounds also disappeared. Wang Lin, Yu Hongyan, Yang Qing, and Kong Nanhua all turned pale. Xianmin Tianzong's direct disciple had been kidnapped. Such a thing was unheard of. It could be said to be the greatest humiliation Xianmin Tianzong had suffered since the founding of the sect. However, Golden Cicada's strength was too strong. Not to mention that the 5 clones were all here, which was equivalent to 4 Buddhist 2nd-tier Golden Body Realm experts and 1 Buddhist 1st-tier Golden Body Realm expert. Even if everyone on their side joined forces to withstand it, they would also provoke Golden Cicada to make a move. Apart from Lin Feng, No one in the Xian Gate heavenly sect could stop that great ancient demon who had already reached the Dharma-ending realm. Why did Golden Cicada only capture the Tribulation Cloud followers? What was he trying to do? Kong Nanhua took a deep breath and forced herself to calm down. Wang Lin's white hair fluttered behind him. His eyes were cold and ferocious, like an active volcano that was about to erupt. Since Yujing Mountain suddenly appeared to test our strength, he must have other plans at the same time. That's why he didn't touch anyone else and only kidnapped Yin Kong. Yu Hongyan's eyes flashed. This demon's cultivation level is too high. Master is in seclusion in the void. Even if we come together, we might be able to deal with his clones, but we can't do anything to him. He must have a plan for kidnapping Yin Kong. Yin Song's life should not be in danger for the time being. This matter is not over. In the future, we must rescue Yin Song and make Golden Cicada pay the price. Wang Lin gripped the flagpole of the Xiantian God-sealing flag so tightly that his knuckles turned slightly white. Now, we have an even more pressing situation to face. Master is in seclusion in the void. We don't know when he will come out. Golden Cicada has kidnapped Yin Song, and we are powerless to get him back. Golden Cicada will know that Master is not on the mountain at the moment. If news of this gets out, it will definitely cause other hostile forces to covet our Xianmen Tianzong. Kong Nanhua nodded. Inform Xiao Yin and the others immediately and tell them to make preparations. We should also return to Yujing Mountain as soon as possible. We can only wait for the sect master to come out of seclusion in the future to seek justice for today's grudge. Golden Cicada's plan is unclear. We have to guard against other plans besides kidnapping Yin Kong. We have to guard against him making a second move after this one. We have to guard against his real body. Wang Lin turned to look at Yang Qing, who had been silent all this time. He saw that Yang Qing was gritting her teeth so hard that creaking sounds could be heard from between her lips. Yang Qing suddenly raised her head. The ferocity and brutality in her eyes were comparable to Wang Lin's. The two of them looked at each other. Then Yang Qing closed her eyes. Slowly, she said, "Senior brother, don't worry. I know what I'm doing. The sect is more important. Let's return to Yujing Mountain." Wang Lin turned to look at Yu Hongyan. Yu Hongyan also nodded. The three of them sighed for a moment. The same thoughts surfaced in their minds. I wonder how Master is doing now. Lin Feng, who was being missed by his disciples, was currently walking in the world of the spiritual sea. He calmly sensed the mysteries of the spiritual sea, and at the same time, tried to figure out the changes within, trying to find a way to leave the spiritual sea. After sensing that Yujing Mountain had appeared in the void, Lin Feng had been worried. If he did not return for a long time, and Yujing Mountain remained exposed in the void, it would be easy for others to let their imaginations run wild. At that time, all kinds of tests would come one after another. If the fact that he was trapped in the spiritual sea and was not in the vast thousand domains was exposed, many hostile forces would pounce on him. The great Zhou dynasty did not have good relations with others. It had almost become the enemy of the entire world. In truth, Xianmen Tianzong's relations with others could only be considered average. It had many allies, but it also had many enemies. This was the inevitable result of the rise of a new force in a short period of time. Although Lin Feng was not afraid of others seizing Yujing Mountain, because of the suppression of the spiritual sea, it was hard to say what would happen to other things besides Yujing Mountain. An ordinary man's wealth was his ruin. The ball of light in the yin-yang sea of Yujing Mountain, the white jade pillar that Zhu Yi had obtained from Yingzhou Mountain, the sky-punishing sword that was still some distance away from perfection, Yingzhou Mountain, and the resources in the Xintian realm. Any one of them was good stuff that would make people salivate. This did not include the secret Penglai Mountain and the 33 Heavens Fortune Elixir. With so many treasures, it was very likely that it would not be just one force that would plot to seize them. Instead, it would cause a group of wolves to surround and attack together. When enemies join forces, they might become unstable due to greed. However, if a few leaders could remain clear-headed and agree to divide the spoils beforehand, they would be able to maintain their alliance on the surface. They could even continue to work together and help each other after the event. At that time, even if Lin Feng returned to the vast Thousand Domains, he would find it difficult to take revenge against the united forces. Huge benefits would split the alliance, but a sufficient amount of danger could make the alliance stronger. I hope little Yin and the rest can handle it. Lin Feng pondered in his heart as he walked in the spiritual sea. At this moment, there seemed to be countless transparent light ribbons intertwining in the spiritual sea. Each light ribbons seemed to contain profound concepts and principles, leaving Lin Feng with endless aftertaste. While analyzing these light ribbons, Lin Feng's understanding of the spiritual sea was also deepening. In addition to his gains in Dharmic Tao, there are thousands of great Taos. Although they all lead to the same destination, they're all different. Why do these light ribbons give me a strange feeling, as if they are vaguely entangled together? Lin Feng found it strange. These light ribbons were said to be ribbons, but they were actually invisible. They were just manifestations of the Tao of heaven and earth, and not real ribbons. However, at this moment, there were clearly some light ribbons vaguely entangled together. Not only did they look like tangible objects, but they also gave off a messy feeling, which was incompatible with the world of the spiritual sea. Lin Feng's heart stirred, and he carefully analyzed these seemingly entangled, invisible light ribbons, feeling the concepts within. Then, he discovered that the great Taos of heaven and earth that these light ribbons were connected to were somewhat incomplete. Following this strange entanglement, Lin Feng continued forward. Suddenly, he saw that in the originally empty world of the spiritual sea, there was a faint flicker of light. As Lin Feng approached the light, he saw that the light grew larger and larger. In the end, it seemed to occupy the entire world. Lin Feng stopped. Behind him was the still, empty world of the spiritual sea, and in front of him was a sea of light. He stood at the boundary between two seemingly different worlds and felt his heavenly scarlet golden bead tremble violently. Lin Feng did not rush to take out the heavenly scarlet golden bead. Silently, he first sensed the world in front of him that seemed to contain endless light. From this half of the world, he could vaguely see many transparent light ribbons extending out. Lin Feng pondered, the great Taos of heaven and earth that these light ribbons are connected to are all broken. The broken great Taos in the spiritual sea seem to be reflected in these ribbons, and the source seems to be here. Chapter 825. Lin Feng spread out his divine sense, and suddenly found a person at the border of the spiritual sea world and the sea of light. It was an old man with an elegant appearance and a calm demeanor. He was sitting cross-legged at the border between the two worlds. Lin Feng looked at him and took out a stone talisman. The stone talisman, which had never been special, was now emitting a mysterious aura of spiritual power. Feeling this aura, the old man's body suddenly shook. He opened his eyes and looked at Lin Feng in the distance. When he noticed the stone talisman in Lin Feng's hand, he was surprised. "Are you down, Master Liuba?" Lin Feng calmly asked. The surprise on the old man's face gradually disappeared, his expression returning to normal, but his eyes flashed. The surprise on his face was even heavier. He looked at Lin Feng, slowly nodding his head. "I am indeed Liuba. How should I address you, sir? I have poor eyesight and can't recognize you." When Tao Master Liuba entered the spiritual sea, Lin Feng had not become famous in the Tianyuan world, so he naturally couldn't recognize him. Lin Feng glanced at Tao Master Liuba and said, "According to Kuei Ox King and Sea Spirit Horse King, Tao Master Liuba was at the original spirit incarnation realm, but now he has successfully refined his spirit to return to the void." He could see through Tao Master Liuba's cultivation realm, but Tao Master Liuba couldn't see through him. He only felt that the purple-clothed young man standing in front of him seemed to have no cultivation at all and didn't reveal any aura. Lin Feng smiled slightly. "I'm a master of the Celestial Gate, Lin Feng. You and I have indeed never met before, but I have come into contact with the Kuei Ox clan and the Sea Spirit Cult clan under you in the past. They asked me to find you on their behalf. This stone talisman was also obtained from the Kuei Ox King. Dao Master Liubo looked at Lin Feng and didn't speak immediately. He was a kind and generous person, so he opened the altar to help the rogue cultivators of East Sea in the past. But it didn't mean that he would easily believe what Lin Feng said. They are very kind. I accidentally entered this place and then lost contact with the outside world, so I couldn't inform them. Dao Master Liubo said slowly, "Over the years, I have never seen anyone else come in except for you. I was thinking that I might die here. It's my honor to meet you. If I'm not wrong, this should be the most mysterious spiritual sea in the 7 seas of Tianyuan. It's a pleasure to cultivate here. However, something unexpected happened when this old man came in, so I am unable to get up to speak with you. This appearance of mine is truly impolite. I hope you don't mind." Lin Feng took a closer look at Dao Master Liubo, who had been sitting cross-legged, and saw many invisible light ribbons extending from his lower body. These invisible ribbons were connected to the sea of light behind him, as if they were extending out from it. Dao Master Liubo was essentially bound here by the light belts manifested by the incomplete Great Dao. Lin Feng asked, "How did this happen?" Dao Master Liubo sighed and took out a stone talisman from his arms. It looked exactly the same as the one in Lin Feng's hand. However, it was full of cracks and obviously could not be used again. I accidentally obtained this pair of stone talismans years ago. Later, under the guidance of the stone talismans, I left Donghai and went west to the Kunlun mountain area. There, I found a staircase made entirely of sunlight that reached to the sky. Dao Master Liubo recalled. Lin Feng nodded slightly. The sunlight staircase that Dao Master Liubo encountered was probably similar to Kong Nanhua's situation. The pair of stone talismans and the staircase to the sky should be the path that the spiritual sea unintentionally manifested and had nothing to do with Taishu Temple and Yuhuang Heavenly Sea. Just like the Nether Sea that had always been closed, cracks would occasionally appear and then quickly close again. However, the location of the cracks in the Nether Sea was relatively stable, while the sunlight staircase leading to the spiritual sea was erratic and unpredictable. Dao Master Liubo continued. When I stepped on the staircase, I immediately felt as if the entire vast thousand world was pressing down on me. It was extremely terrifying. At that time, I was blessed and vaguely felt the mysterious relationship between the great Tao of heaven and earth. I separated the pair of stone talismans and was saved from danger. Then I was sucked into the spiritual sea world. Dao Master Liubo looked down at the light belt connected to him and sighed. Unfortunately, as soon as I entered the spiritual sea world, I fell here and was connected to these light belts, unable to move. Hearing this, Lin Feng nodded noncommittally. He walked past Dao Master Liubo and approached the sea of light step by step to feel the power within. Even though it was bright and resplendent compared to the formless spirit sea world of the great Tao, Lin Feng could only feel extreme distortion from within this dazzling light. The heavenly scarlet golden bead shook violently, and the zenith heaven whose divine soul was in it was at a loss. Lin Feng comforted Dao Yuo, but did not rush to take out the celestial scarlet golden bead. He was still carefully feeling the mystery of the sea of light in front of him. Through the unusual movements of the celestial scarlet golden bead, Lin Feng speculated that the sea of light in front of him, which was incompatible with the spiritual sea world, was probably related to the Yuhuang celestial sea in the past. At this moment, the entire spiritual sea world seemed to shake, and the countless invisible light belts gradually emitted a faint light. Endless waves of spiritual qi swept through the entire space, vibrating in an orderly manner like the waves of the sea. And now, these waves of spiritual qi were rushing towards the sea of light where Lin Feng and Dao Master Liubo were. These waves originate from the people of Taishu Temple who also came here. Lightning flashed in Lin Feng's mind, and he quickly understood. Taishu Temple really has a deep understanding of the spiritual sea. Now, they want to set things right and clear this sea of light and the traces left by the Yuwang celestial sea in the past. The sea of light did not react much in the face of this turbulent spiritual chi tide, nor did it intend to resist. Silently, it just let the spiritual chi tide hit it. Lin Feng's pupil shrank slightly. He only felt that the sea of light seemed to have turned into a bottomless abyss, silently swallowing the incoming spiritual chi tide. It was not like the sea was absorbing all rivers, but as if a bottomless trench had suddenly appeared in the sea. A large amount of seawater poured into it, but could not fill it up. After a few consecutive attacks, the spiritual energy tide gradually subsided. It was not that they were lacking in stamina, but that they seemed to have discovered the mysteries of the sea of light. They temporarily stopped attacking and prepared to slowly figure out the root of the problem before settling it with a thunderous momentum. Lin Feng and Dao Master Liubo, who were at the junction of the two worlds, were not in danger. The spiritual chi tide did not cause any harm to them, but Lin Feng would not really believe that the tide was harmless. It was just that this time the tide came specifically for the sea of light, not for the two of them. The tide receded. Dao Master Liubo frowned and said, "This is the first time I've encountered such a thing. It has never happened before." Lin Feng said lightly, "This should be the doing of the cultivators of Taishu Temple." Dao Master Liubo was slightly stunned. "Is it the Taishu Temple?" Lin Feng's eyes still fell on the vast world of the spiritual sea, and he replied calmly, "If I'm not wrong, Taishu Temple has mastered the way to enter the spiritual sea freely. And the sea of light in front of you was created by Yudu, the Saint Emperor of the Demon Clan. The birth of this sea of light also made Taishu Temple unable to continue to enter the spiritual sea freely. If you want to enter the spiritual sea, you can only rely on chance, such as you. Now, the Void Temple has once again found a way to enter the Spirit Sea, but it is not as convenient as before. So they're trying to set things right and change the Spirit Sea, returning it to the way it was before the Yuwang Heavenly Sea caused chaos." Dao Master Liubo was stunned. He hesitated and looked at Lin Feng. "Then you are." Lin Feng smiled faintly and said no more. He let Dao Master Liubo guess by himself, and his attention was on the world of the spiritual sea, which had calmed down again. It's not easy to drive such a tide just now. Can Taishu Temple control the spiritual sea to such an extent? Lin Feng's expression did not change, but his heart sank slightly. Did they have such an ability before? Or did they gain a blessing in disguise after coming in this time because of the changes caused by Yuwang's celestial sea? While thinking, Lin Feng's pupils suddenly contracted slightly. He vaguely saw a looming light and shadow illusion in the void of the spiritual sea, where the tide had just receded. There were two people in the light and shadow, a man and a woman, one in front and one behind. The woman in the back had picturesque eyebrows, ethereal and beautiful facial features, and held a round mirror in her arms. The outline of the round mirror was blurry. Only the surface of the mirror, which was as clear as autumn water, had endless scenes constantly changing. Flowers bloomed and withered, tides rose and fell. But the most eye-catching thing was the illusory bright moon in the mirror, which was constantly changing between the moon and the moon, from a full moon to a waning moon, and then from a waning moon to a crescent moon. Finally, it almost disappeared, but the next moment it reappeared and gradually became a full moon. Moonlight in the mirror. Lin Feng's eyes slightly narrowed, seeing the woman hugging the round mirror, her gaze landing on the man one step away from her. Deep reverence could be faintly seen in her gaze, as well as a trace of almost undetectable love. Lin Feng's eyes fell on the man. I didn't think of that. This was an extremely handsome man, with perfect facial features and facial contours, as if they were created by heaven and earth, without any flaws. The man looked calm and had a noble temperament, like the lonely moon hanging in the sky, cold and lonely. Between the man's eyebrows, there was a pattern of a full moon, constantly changing, showing the moon's waxing and waning and the moonlight changing. The most shocking thing was that other than the completely different temperament, the man's appearance was exactly the same as Miao Shihao's. Lin Feng looked at the light and shadow in the spiritual sea, his gaze moving from the man to the woman behind him, then to the round mirror in the woman's arms, and finally to the man. This man and the woman behind him both wore long robes, embroidered with a white cloud, which was the symbol of the Taishu Temple. Although it was only an illusory light and shadow, and didn't really exist and disappeared in a flash, Lin Feng could still be sure that the cultivation of these two people was extremely high. It's very likely that the Taishu Temple activated the spiritual sea tide this time with the help of something, and that thing came from these two people. Lin Feng withdrew his gaze. Although the situation of the spiritual sea is still unclear, it has made me understand some other things. Chapter 826. Although there were only a few scattered clues, Lin Feng was still able to summarize some things and form a guess in his mind. The scene created by the illusory light and shadow just now proved Lin Feng's guess. Although that man looked exactly like Miao Shihao, Lin Feng naturally had never seen him before. Not to mention Lin Feng, no one in the human cultivation world in the Divine Land had ever seen him in person. However, this person's name was like thunder to the ears of the human cultivation world. The younger generation, or those of a lower level, might not have heard of him. After all, it was too long ago. However, those who were in high positions must have heard of him. In the ancient epic, one of the four heroes of the Taishu Temple, Yuehua Tian. In the past, the founder of the Taishu Temple, the Taishu Taoist, had many personal disciples. However, the four most well-known and most outstanding disciples were known as the sun, moon, and stars. Later generations also called them the four heroes of the Taishu Temple: Wen Qiang, Yuehua Tian, Yin Xinghe, and Huang Chun. Among the four heroes, Huang Chun joined the sect the earliest and was the oldest. He had been a disciple of the Taishu Taoists since the primeval epoch and helped the Taishu Taoist establish the Taishu Temple. He had personally experienced the unparalleled battle that split the world from the primeval epoch to the ancient epoch. However, it was a pity that he had fallen the earliest. In the early years of the primeval epoch, the Taishu Taoist and Tai Huang had fought together to kill the demon races Jue Huang, Xianshang. He had died young. The most famous of the four heroes was Wen Qiang. He was known as the #1 expert of the Taishu Temple after the Taishu Taoist. Even though he had fallen later, he had left a strong mark in the history of the entire heaven primal world. It was widely acknowledged that Wen Qiang had the strength to ascend to the throne of the human emperor, but like his master, he also declined the throne. Apart from Wen Qiang, Yin Xinghe was the second temple master of the Taishu Temple after the Taishu Taoist died at the Sea of Death. He made important contributions to the development of the Taishu Temple and the fight between the human race and the demon race. Later, he worked together with the ancient emperor to depose the king of the underworld. However, in that battle, Yin Xinghe had also been heavily injured and had perished together with the king of the underworld. It was worth mentioning that Yin Xinghe was the ancestor of the current temple master of the Taishu Temple, Yin Nanlai. His bloodline descendants were the Taishu Temple, which was also an extremely rare bloodline in the human cultivation world. They were able to continue from the ancient times to the present day and had outstanding talents in every generation. The most mysterious of the four great disciples was Yuehua Tian. No one in the outside world had ever seen his true appearance. Even within the Taishu Temple, there were very few people who had seen Yuehua Tian's true appearance. To this day, there were even no images of him that had been passed down. As such, the cultivation world of the Divine Land had only heard of Yuehua Tian's name, but did not know what he looked like in person. In the past, Yuehua Tian had followed the Taishu Taoist and Gautama Buddha to the Sea of Death and had lost contact with them. Now, Even his life and death had become a mystery. Compared to the mysterious Yue Tian himself, the person that the outside world was more familiar with was actually his disciple, Lord Watermoon Li Jingyuan. An image of Li Jingyuan had been passed down, and Lin Feng had seen her appearance before. It was the woman who had appeared just now, holding the round mirror. Li Jingyuan was following behind her, and she had the mark of Yuehua on her forehead. She had a close relationship with the Taishu Temple, and her cultivation was extremely high. With so many characteristics gathered together, Lin Feng could naturally confirm that the man who had the same appearance as Miao Shihao was Yuehua Tian, one of the four great heroes of the ancient times. Looking at his face, which had a completely different temperament, but was no different from Miao Shihao's, and then looking at Li Jingyuan, who was standing behind him holding the mirror, the messy clues in Lin Feng's mind suddenly became clear. Lin Feng thought to himself, there is still too little information about the Taishu Temple. Although Yuehua Tian's life and death are unknown, at least there is definite news that he went to the Sea of Death with the Taishu Taoist. But as for Li Jingyuan, her whereabouts are unknown. She was quite famous in the ancient times, but in the end, she gradually disappeared. There is no news of her, and no one knows how she died. At that time, Li Jingyuan's cultivation was already at the third level of the primordial soul realm. Even if she died, she would not have died without a trace. I'm afraid that even the people of the Taishu Temple now do not know much about this secret. There should only be a few people who know the truth. Besides them, only Shihao knows. Lin Feng shook his head slightly and withdrew his thoughts. His gaze moved between the world of the spiritual sea and the sea of light beside him. In this way, it completely proves the fact that the Void Temple has already deeply researched the Spirit Sea before. Lin Feng thought to himself, both Yuehua Tian and Li Jingyuan entered the spiritual sea, so they left behind treasures that can affect this place. Now, the cultivators of the Taishu Temple use them to drive the tide of the spiritual sea. Lin Feng continued to observe the sea of light in front of him while thinking. After a while, he took out the Tianshan golden bead. Suddenly, a large amount of purple light shone from the golden bead. Streams of light rushed out of the bead and extended toward the sea of light. As soon as these streams of light came into contact with the sea of light, a huge suction force suddenly came from the sea of light, trying to suck the Tianshan golden bead in. Lin Feng raised his palm and gently chopped in the air. The heavenly barrier spell was launched to isolate the huge suction force of the sea of light. The Tianshan golden bead still stayed in Lin Feng's palm. Seeing this, Tao Master Lu Bo revealed a look of surprise again. Lin Feng turned to look at him and asked calmly, Your Excellency, there must be something else that is attracted by the sea of light, right? Tao Master Liubua's eyes flickered and he sighed. The master of the celestial sect, right? Your Excellency, you really have a sharp eye. That's why I'm bound by the sea of light and can't even move. He looked at Lin Feng and said, To tell you the truth, other than that pair of stone talismans, I also accidentally obtained a small seal platform. Under the dual guidance of the seal platform and the stone talisman. Only then was I able to find that sunlight staircase that leads to the spirit sea. I was careless, and the seal platform was sucked away by the sea of light in front of me. In a hurry, I released my primordial spirit incarnation to wrap the seal platform, but I was also bound by the sea of light. It was only by a narrow escape that I could not get out, so I could only sit here with my legs crossed. There are thousands of great ways and endless spiritual chi in the spiritual sea. I broke through the bottleneck here and successfully refined my spirit to return to the void. My Dharma power and divine sense increased, so I was able to untie the shackles on my upper body, but my lower body is still bound. Lin Feng nodded and did not say anything else. He directly performed the heavenly realm barrier again. He straightened his palm like a saber and chopped at the light belt that bound Tao Master Liubua. Tao Master Liubua's body shook, and he immediately felt that the light band that bound him was constantly disintegrating. He was surprised and delighted. He immediately showed his Dharma body of void return, which was a vast and boundless ocean. He worked together with Lin Feng to break free from the light band. When Tao Master Liubo finally got out of the Sea of Light, he felt as if a lifetime had passed. He immediately thanked Lin Feng. Thanks to the master of the celestial sect, I was able to get out of trouble. Thank you very much. Lin Feng smiled slightly. You're welcome, fellow Taoist Liubo. I promised Kuei Nyo King and Sea Spirit Chariot King that if I can find you in the spiritual sea, I'll see if you're trapped. If you're willing to stay in the spiritual sea, just send a message back. If you're trapped, I'll help you. Tao Master Liubo shook his sleeve, and a small purple gold seal flew out and appeared in front of Lin Feng. When he saw that Lin Feng's celestial centipede golden bead was also attracted by the Sea of Light, he knew that Lin Feng would most likely need his small purple gold seal. Before Lin Feng said anything, Tao Master Liubo had already offered the seal. On the one hand, he owed Lin Feng a favor. On the other hand, he already knew that Lin Feng's divine sense and Dharma power were above his. Even if he directly snatched it, he wouldn't be able to keep it. Seeing that Tao Master Liubo took the initiative to hand over the seal, Lin Feng nodded slightly. Thank you, fellow Taoist. Tao Master Liubo shook his head and said, What are you talking about, Sect Master Lin? It's been proven that this treasure can't play any role in my hands. Sect Master Lin, you're powerful, so maybe you can use it. Lin Feng took the small purple gold seal and saw a half-human, half-demon statue carved on the upper part of the seal, which looked like a Yudu beast. Sure enough, Lin Feng's heart stirred slightly, and he asked Tao Master Liubo, Fellow Taoist, did you also get this seal from the East Sea? Tao Master Liubo nodded. That's right, in the northern part of the East Sea, near the Luofu Immortal Island. Lin Feng didn't say anything, and the zenith heaven and the celestial centipede golden bead also fell into silence. That was the place where he used to live. After the combination of the light and shadow of Yuhuang on Penglai Immortal Mountain, as well as the years of cultivation, although the zenith heaven still didn't have a thorough understanding of its own situation, it gradually figured out some things. This small seal with the Yudu statue carved on it was very likely to be related to him. Lin Feng immediately shot out several streams of mana into the seal platform, refining the seal platform. He discovered that there weren't too many valuable things inside, only a few rather outstanding formations. One of the formations faintly resonated with the sea of light in front of him, and the other formation was connected to the celestial centipede golden bead, as well as the zenith heaven's divine soul in the celestial centipede golden bead. After carefully figuring out the concept of the second formation, it played a supporting role, which was of great help to the zenith heaven and the celestial centipede golden bead. Lin Feng raised the celestial centipede golden bead and the purple gold seal together, which flashed dazzlingly in the void. The purple gold seal directly integrated into the celestial centipede golden bead, and the size of the celestial centipede golden bead increased again. A terrifying purple divine light surged out of the celestial centipede golden bead, and the dazzling divine markings shook the heavens. Even the thousands of great Tao in the spirit sea reacted and shook together. The tide of spiritual qi that had originally calmed down showed signs of rising again, but this time it was triggered by the celestial centipede golden bead. The sea of light in front of Lin Feng also changed. In the pure and bright sea of light, it suddenly shook violently, as if waves were rising and falling. An image gradually took shape and appeared in front of Lin Feng and Tao Master Liubo. However, when they saw this image, Lin Feng and Tao Master Liubo were momentarily dumbfounded. F***CK. These two words rolled in Lin Feng's mouth for a long time, and he almost cursed out loud. Chapter 827. The image presented in front of Lin Feng and Tao Master Liubo was a scene that would shock even primordial spirit cultivators. In the vast flow of heaven and earth light, a huge alien space appeared. The shape of this space was very strange. It was like a flat surface that covered the sky and the earth. It was connected to the vast thousand world everywhere, like a membrane attached to the surface of the vast thousand world. But if one looked carefully, they would feel that this alien space seemed to be just an independent point, like a speck of dust. The changes were unpredictable, but it was also very mysterious. When Lin Feng and Dao Master Liuba saw it, they could both feel that this strange alien space was the spirit sea where they were at the moment. At this moment, the huge flat surface of the spirit sea in the light and shadow suddenly twisted violently, like a piece of paper that was wrinkled by someone. The image changed, and the scene presented in the light and shadow suddenly turned into a silent and invisible vast world inside the spirit sea. But at this time, in the world of the spirit sea, an unprecedented tide of the spirit sea broke out, causing the originally calm spirit sea to be turbulent like a tsunami. In the spirit sea, a figure stood there with limbs and facial features very similar to a human, but complex purple light patterns appeared on the surface of his body, as if engraved on his body. The hair on his head was completely silver, limited to the width of a fist around the spine, from the back of the head all the way to the coccyx. A huge hair tail floated behind him silently, and there was a long horn on both sides of the head and the middle of the forehead. The 3 long horns were densely covered with talismans. Purple light spread out, stirring up the spirit sea where thousands of great waves gathered. An incomparably terrifying power spread out, as if the supreme ruler of heaven and earth had descended. Its human-like face was filled with arrogance and tyranny, its might overlooking the world. The Saint Emperor of the Demon Clan, the master of the Yudu clan, Heavenly See Yudu. Lin Feng's pupils contracted slightly. He could clearly see that under the illumination of the Yu Wang, Celestial Sea's Yudu Hellflower, there were actually some formless bands of light that were manifested by the great Tao that were disintegrating like sand sculptures in water. Then, Yu Wang Heavenly Sea opened its mouth and made a gesture towards the endless void of the spirit sea. Bite! The figure glowing with purple light seemed to become incomparably massive. It opened its mouth and bit down into the void. Countless rays of purple light flashed, and the formless world seemed to be bitten by it, constantly tearing at it. When Lin Feng and Dao Master Liuba looked at the spirit sea from the outside, the entire spirit sea seemed to be distorted and wrinkled like a piece of paper. The source was actually here. The spiritual sea completely lit up. Invisible ribbons of light crisscrossed and vibrated together. The runes of the great Tao of the heavens appeared, and the spiritual energy in the spiritual sea that was like the sky and the sea all went berserk. That terrifying power made even Lin Feng feel apprehensive. It was a terrifying power that could kill primordial soul and path integration powerhouses at will in an instant. As the great Tao of heaven, which had manifested as an invisible belt of light, shattered, a great terror that could destroy heaven and earth descended. It was above the Dharma ending tribulation, the Deva's 5 decays. Not only was everything in the world declining and collapsing, but it seemed like the entire great thousand worlds were heading towards the end of the road. But what was even more shocking was the Yu Wang Heavenly Sea. Even in the face of such a terrifying suppression of the spiritual sea world, the Yu Wang Heavenly Sea's Yudu netherlight surged wildly and the purple light kept shattering. But it still did not let go. Not only did it not let go, but it also continued to exert force. A tearing sound that was not loud rang in the hearts of Lin Feng and Dao Master Liuba, who were watching the video, making them feel extremely uncomfortable, as if this tearing sound alone could damage their primordial spirits. Lin Feng was in good condition. He circulated his Dharma power and calmed his mind, while Dao Master Liuba let out a muffled groan and directly manifested his Dharma body of void return to resist. This made both of them secretly shocked. They only watched the virtual video, but they already had such a feeling. One could imagine what kind of earth-shattering scene it was at that time. In the light and shadow, the vast and mysterious spiritual sea, with thousands of great Tao, was suddenly bitten open by the Yu Huang heavenly sea. Countless broken great Tao kept twisting, bursting out dazzling pure, but chaotic and desolate light, full of contradictions, and finally turned into a sea of light. Because of the birth of the sea of light, the entire spiritual sea world was constantly in turmoil. The power of the spiritual sea became even more tyrannical, directly shaking the Yu Huang heavenly sea out of the space of the spiritual sea. Although he was finally expelled, Yu Huang heavenly sea's face was full of a wanton and wild smile. Although he was smiling, revealing his cold and sharp teeth, he clenched his teeth so tightly that endless light could be vaguely seen swaying between his teeth. Both Lin Feng and Tao Master Liubo stared at this scene blankly, marveling at Yuang heavenly sea's lawlessness and unparalleled divine sense. This guy is really fierce. He actually bit off a corner of the spiritual sea. Lin Feng also couldn't come back to his senses for a while. He shook his head slightly and said, "No wonder this guy is known as the strongest expert of this era." His divine sense and Dharma power are already amazing enough, and he has swallowed a corner of the spiritual sea. When he recovers from the injury suppressed by the spiritual sea, his strength will be even higher than what is seen in the video. Tao Master Liubo was even more dumbfounded. This demon is really too fierce. Lin Feng let out a long breath, turned his head to look at the spiritual sea world behind him, and then looked at the sea of light in front of him. "I see, this sea of light in front of me is actually the gap of the spiritual sea bitten out by Yudu. After all, the spiritual sea is mysterious and self-balanced. Although there is such a damage, it has not completely collapsed and caused irreparable damage. These years, the spiritual sea has also been self-repairing. Now that the people of Taishu Temple have come in, they will definitely greatly speed up the recovery of the spiritual sea. With this process, I think their control over the spiritual sea will be further deepened. In this case, the tide just now is really part of the recovery." After thinking for a while, Lin Feng's eyes gradually became serious. He turned his head to look at the invisible great ways in the spiritual sea space, and his pupils gradually contracted. Cultivating here, the spiritual chi is like the sea, and anyone can get twice the result with half the effort. But the most beneficial thing is probably for the cultivators at the peak of the Void Return realm, who will have a higher chance of breaking through to the Tao Integration realm. It is also very beneficial for comprehending and creating Taoist techniques. Lin Feng stood with his hands behind his back, and a Tai Chi pattern appeared on his forehead, constantly rotating as he silently thought about his heavenly Tao Sutra. In the sea of light in front of him, the image just now gradually disappeared, but then it resonated with the heavenly scarlet golden bead and the Daoyuo divine soul in it. A large number of runes and incantations surged into the heavenly scarlet golden bead and appeared in front of Lin Feng and the Daoyuo divine soul. Among them were the many essences left behind by Yu Wang celestial sea, and it was his own understanding of the principles of all things in the world during the process of cultivation. Yu Wang's celestial sea swallowed a corner of the spiritual sea, but in the process of fighting against the spiritual sea, it also imprinted many of its own Taoist techniques' essence changes. A large amount of light spread out, as if the sea of light was extending, wrapping around Lin Feng and the heavenly scarlet golden bead, turning it into a huge ball of light. It was just that half of this ball of light was in the sea of light, while the other half remained in the space of the spiritual sea. Lin Feng's left and right eyes seemed to suddenly change. In one eye was the creation of all things, life and death, and the 8 trigrams surged, wanting to reopen the world. In the other eye was boundless purple light, as if it controlled the Taoist of all things and was the ruler of the universe. As expected, Lin Feng sat cross-legged on the ground, and there was a flash of light in front of him. Brontosaurus's clone revealed his true form, turning into a purple-scaled heavenly dragon that was thousands of feet long. One human, one demon, both resided in the void, and the size of their bodies was somewhat disproportionate. Right now, the eyes of Lin Feng's main body were filled with the creation of all things, the creation of the heavenly Tao, and the Tai Chi pattern on his forehead constantly rotated. Meanwhile, the eyes of Brontosaurus's clone flickered with boundless purple light, as if he was the ruler of the world, looking down on all things indifferently. The two faced each other, faintly forming a wonderful balance, as if they were the two extremes of the world. Tao Master Liubo couldn't see everything inside the light ball, but he could see the complete great Tao in the spiritual sea space. At this moment, they had also become invisible light ribbons, connected to the surface of the light ball, and he could vaguely feel an extremely mysterious aura emanating from the light ball. In the light ball, Lin Feng's state of mind was unprecedentedly calm, silently deducing the last step of his yin and yang chapter of the Tao Te Ching. Before this, Lin Feng had deduced all kinds of principles and concepts, including yin and yang, life and death, light and darkness, eternity and instant, heaven and earth, true and false, extreme and extreme, creation and destruction. But he was still not done. This step was to understand the world. There was an essential difference between human Taoism and demon Taoism. Human Taoism was to go against the heaven, to seek to create their own world, to steal the power of the sun and moon, and finally to be free and unfettered. Demon Taoism was to follow the heaven, to seek to integrate with heaven and earth, to draw heaven and earth into their own bodies, and finally to replace heaven and earth. They were heaven and earth, and heaven and earth were them. Before the formation of primordial spirit and immortal demon soul, human and demon cultivation would follow their own paths to lay the foundation for the future. Human clan cultivators could only reach the first level of primordial spirit realm, the incarnation realm. Only then could they integrate with heaven and earth and become one with heaven and earth. However, being one with heaven and earth was not the real pursuit, but to transcend and jump out of the world. Therefore, after that, they would refine their spirit and return to the void, forming a world of their own, no longer attached to the original world of creation, and taking the first step of true independence. Then, the primordial spirit unification was to observe the great Tao of heaven and earth and integrate with their own Tao, making the world of their own a step further. As for the great sage of the demon clan, they would form the immortal demon soul. Like the human primordial spirit incarnation, they would integrate with heaven and earth. As long as heaven and earth were not destroyed, they would not perish. However, the demon clan would not abandon their true form. Instead, while forming the immortal demon soul, their true form would become more closely integrated with heaven and earth. At the second level of the immortal demon soul, they would form the primordial true spirit, which was completely different from the human clan cultivators. This primordial true spirit was the true spirit of this boundless universe. By rooting it into their demon soul and bloodline, it would form the true spirit divine mark and become more closely integrated with heaven and earth. Although it was a tangible body, it was like an invisible extension of heaven and earth. At the third level of the immortal demon soul, the star-soul unification, one would integrate one's demon soul with the stars of heaven and earth, becoming inseparable from heaven and earth. After the primordial spirit unification of the human clan and the star-soul unification of the demon clan, although they were different paths to the same goal, and both had to start challenging the three tribulations of creation, the paths they took were still very different. These two cultivation methods were opposing, yet unified existences. They represented the two different understandings of the living beings of the heaven primal world. When Lin Feng derived the yin-yang chapter of the heavenly Tao scripture, he had already refined a lot of the other two opposing principles. However, it was still not perfect. Previously, When Lin Feng browsed through the Buddhist teachings, he was reminded. Therefore, he abandoned the Iron Tree clone and reforged the Brontosaurus clone. Through various harvests, he studied the peak heavenly Tao demon scripture of the demon clan, using it as a source of inspiration. The remnant experience of the Tao of the Yu Huang Heaven Sea in the Sea of Light was the final supplement, making up for the last step. As expected, this is the opportunity for me to refine my spirit and return to the void. Lin Feng closed his eyes. In this world of the spirit's sea, where the great Tao crisscrossed, he cleansed and sorted out his Tao, completely establishing the third chapter of the heavenly Tao scripture, the Yin-Yang chapter. Chapter 828. While Wang Lin and the others were still in the southern wasteland, in the southern region of Kunlun Mountain, on beyond Heaven Mountain, all other places were quiet and peaceful. Only the main hall at the top of the mountain had a strange atmosphere. A huge spell formation was suddenly activated and covered the main hall, making it impossible to enter or leave the main hall. In the main hall, in front of the main hall, a group of Beyond Heaven Mountain disciples had gathered and were listening to the elder preaching. However, the elder who was preaching seemed to be in a daze. Meanwhile, in the rear hall that was connected to the main hall, a long and intense battle was currently taking place. The main hall and the rear hall were also separated by a formation, preventing any sound from leaking out and alerting the people in the main hall. Within the rear hall, the formation was activated, and it transformed into an expanse of black hole void. The forces of both sides were already fighting fiercely within the void, and they were locked in battle. One of them was about 40 or 50 years old. He had 3 strands of black beard and a square, serious face. He was the sect master of Beyond Heaven Mountain, Wu Yun Liang. Another middle-aged man was fighting with him. He was Li Baitao, the second in Wu Yun Liang's generation. His expression was solemn, but there was a trace of determination in it. Besides Wu Yun Liang and Li Baitao, there were 2 other elders who were also fighting. These 2 elders were both in the late Yuanying stage. They were the only 2 remaining elders of the previous generation of Beyond Heaven Mountain. Normally, they would seize the time to cultivate in seclusion, hoping to reach the primordial soul stage in their lifetime. These 2 elders had long stopped caring about the matters of the sect. This time, not only did they come out of seclusion together, but they also started a fierce battle. Besides them, the other higher-ups of Beyond Heaven Mountain were also gathered here. Everyone was standing in a circle with their opponents. The atmosphere in the main hall was extremely oppressive. After fighting for a long time, Wu Yun Liang forced Li Baitao to retreat with his sword. He asked in a deep voice, "Junior brotherly, do you really want to rebel against Beyond Heaven Mountain?" Li Baitao's expression was calm, and his gaze was firm. "It's not that I want to rebel against Beyond Heaven Mountain. It's just that senior brother sect leader is hesitant and hesitant. It will definitely bring disaster to Beyond Heaven Mountain." Many years ago, in order to deal with the pressure brought by the Great Qin dynasty, our Beyond Heaven Mountain had already drawn closer to Shu Mountain. All along, we have been vassals of Shu Mountain. Back then, we pretended to betray Shu Mountain and join Xinmen Tianzong, but it was also under the orders of Shu Mountain. At that time, sect leader senior brother, you had also made up your mind. Wu Yun Liang waved his hand, and his people retreated. They formed a formation and supported each other. He stared at Li Baitao and said, "What you did today was indeed instigated by the Shushan sword sect. What do you guys want to do?" Li Baitao also did not continue to press forward. He and his men stood in position, facing Wu Yun Liang and the others. Nothing much. A few days ago, there was a sudden change in Xinmen Tianzong. Yujing Mountain, which has always been hidden in the void, suddenly appeared in the vast thousand domains. A powerful expert from the Shushan sword sect was watching from afar. He felt that the spiritual energy of the fairy mountain was different from before. The master of the Xinmen sect did not seem to be on the mountain. Therefore, the Mount Shu sword sect wants to test the waters of the celestial sect of wonders and see what the situation is. Wu Yinliang stared at him and asked, What did you do? Slowly, Li Baitao said, nothing much. When I surrounded you guys here, I also sent a message to Xianmin Tianzong. I said that there is a rebellion in Beyond Heaven Mountain. We can't quell it, so we asked Xianmin Tianzong for help. As the instigator of the rebellion, Li Baitao naturally was not crazy. While blocking the communication between Wu Yunliang and the others, he also sent a message to Xianmin Tianzong. You guys want to surround us and ambush the Xianmin Tianzong disciples? Wu Yunliang immediately understood. Your people are all here. So, the people from Shushan have already arrived? Li Baitao sighed and did not speak. In fact, how could he not be afraid? At the moment, the Xianmin Tianzong they were plotting against was too huge compared to Beyond Heaven Mountain. A single hair of the Xianmin Tianzong was thicker than their waists. During the trip to the Yinghai Sea, they had obtained the Yingzhou Immortal Mountain alone, as well as a Creation Dharma treasure embryo. They had even obtained the Great Zhou Dynasty's Fangzhong Immortal Mountain. At this moment, the Mystic Gate Heavenly Sect was even more powerful than before. If not for the sudden change in Xianmin Tianzong, even Li Baitao, who was the most firm supporter of Shushan sect and Beyond Heaven Mountain, would not dare to act rashly. At the same time, if Xianmin Tianzong had not changed, Shushan Sword sect would not have tried to test them. Even now, Beyond Heaven Mountain did not have much courage to provoke Xianmin Tianzong. However, they could not afford to offend the Shushan Sword sect on the other side, and they had already come to their door. If they and the others went back on their word and really wanted to side with Xianmin Tianzong, the entire Beyond Heaven Mountain would immediately be destroyed. The plan they were carrying out at the moment was to use this internal rebellion to ask for help from Xianmin Tianzong. Then, with the help of the hidden cultivators of Shushan Sword sect, they would detain Xianmin Tianzong's people to test Xianmin Tianzong's reaction. Li Baitao looked at the silent crowd and said slowly, whether it's Xianmin Tianzong or Shushan Sword sect, we can't resist them. If it's possible, I don't want the Patriarch's Foundation to be involved in such a huge whirlpool and be in danger of overturning at any time. However, under the instruction of Shushan, we deliberately turn away from Shushan and turn to rely on Xianmin Tianzong. Although our Beyond Heaven Mountain and Shushan are not inseparable from each other, if the conditions permit, we can also pretend to be courteous to Shushan. But this time, Shushan has really come to our door. If we don't agree, we will immediately be destroyed. Even if Xianmin Tianzong retaliates against Shushan later, they can only get back their own face. Our Beyond Heaven Mountain can't recover. This time, the whole Divine Land is staring at Xianmin Tianzong, who has suddenly moved. Shushan is also determined to take action. The situation is no longer up to us to continue to waver. We must make a thorough choice. He looked at Wu Yunliang and said in a deep voice, Senior Brother Sect Leader, we have already made the decision that year. After so many years of preparation, we can't waver in the face of battle. Over the years, I can faintly feel that you are wavering. So today, I have to offend you. Someone from Wu Yunliang's faction said in a deep voice, whether Xianmin Tianzong will change or not is still unknown. Now, Shushan Sword Sect is like the sun in the West Mountain, and Xianmin Tianzong is like the sun in the sky. We are still hanging on the tree of Shushan Sword Sect. Isn't it a little unwise? Li Baitao shook his head. The rise of Xianmin Tianzong is special. At first, Taishu Temple wanted to support it as a new chess piece to replace Big Lane Temple to balance Shushan Sword Sect. So, there was a chance for Xianmin Tianzong to develop and grow. But in the end, Xianmin Tianzong couldn't get rid of it. Instead, it joined forces with Great Qin Dynasty and Great Zhou Dynasty to fight against Taishu Temple. Now, Taishu Temple's attitude towards Xianmin Tianzong has naturally changed. In the Battle of Xiling City, although the master of Xianmin Tianzong defeated Xian Longsheng, Shushan Sword Sect's potential is far from bottoming out. If there is an all-out war, I'm afraid that Shushan Sword Sect has a higher chance of winning. In addition to the Immortal Heaven Sword, Shushan Sword Sect also has two grand elders. Their cultivation is probably not inferior to the master of Xianmen Tianzong. After the Battle of Shiling City, Xian Longsheng cultivated in seclusion and also made a breakthrough. Because of the many experts cultivating in seclusion, Shushan Sword Sect has been much more low-key these years. But after hiding their strength and biding their time, there will be an even more terrifying outbreak. The cultivator on the other side said in a deep voice, "Senior Brotherly, you just said that relying on Xianmen Tianzong will not be able to bear the anger of Shushan Sword Sect. Even if Xianmen Tianzong will go to all-out war with Shushan Sword Sect for the sake of its reputation, our Beyond Heaven mountain is destroyed. The mountain can be rebuilt, but the dead can't come back to life. This principle is the same in reverse." Li Baitao said, "If this test can find out the truth about Xianmen Tianzong and prove that the master of Xianmen Tianzong is indeed missing, then I'm afraid it will not be Shushan alone dealing with Xianmen Tianzong. Xianmen Tianzong has been acting overbearingly all these years, so he will definitely be attacked by others. At that time, even if the master of Xianmen Tianzong reappears and wants to take revenge, he will be surrounded by enemies and won't have time to find trouble with Beyond Heaven Mountain. With his current status, it is impossible for him to put down his status and come to us. He can only send his disciples. But after this disaster, I'm afraid there will not be many people left in Xianmen Tianzong. In particular, if they lose Yujing Mountain, the magic treasure of creation embryo, and the Xintian realm. Even if Xianmen Tianzong still has the Yingzhou Immortal Mountain in the Ying Sea, their vitality will be greatly damaged. On the other hand, his opponents will become much stronger because of this. Slowly, the elder of the previous generation on Wu Yun Liang's side said, "In the past, didn't the master of the mysterious gate establish Xianmen Tianzong from nothing? How do you know he won't make a comeback one day?" Li Baitao nodded at the old man. "Martial uncle, please understand. Before, we had the support of Taishu Temple, but after the Battle of West Hill City, everyone in Taishu Temple must have seen clearly that the master of Xianmen Tianzong has a big plan. This time, Xianmen Tianzong has suffered a disaster. If they want to rise again, it will be much more difficult than before. Everyone's eyes will be fixed on him, and they will never give him a chance to make a comeback. After the Mount Shu Sword Sect and other forces have severely injured and suppressed Xianmen Tianzong, their own strength will greatly increase. If they unite again, even if the master of Xianmen Tianzong comes back to the world, it will only be difficult." Li Baitao paused for a moment. Just like what Junior Brother Qi said, people can't come back to life after they die, and mountains can be rebuilt after they are destroyed. If we really find out that Xianmen Tianzong is empty, the forces will repeat what happened in the past and form the exterminating Xian Alliance. Our Beyond Sky Mountain will naturally not participate. Instead, we will prepare in advance and move away from Beyond Sky Mountain. The Mount Shu Sword Sect has already agreed for us to temporarily live in Mount Shu. At that time, even if the master of Xianmen Tianzong returns to the mortal world, unless he destroys Mount Shu first, he will not be able to do anything to us. But at that time, he will first have to deal with the follow-up measures of the exterminating Xian Alliance. At this point, Li Baitao's voice became slightly lower. Of course, things in the world can't always go according to one's wishes. Since it is a test, it may succeed, but it may also fail. If the result of this test is that the master of Xianmen Tianzong is safe, I'm afraid the exterminating Xian Alliance will not come to fruition. At that time, regardless of what happens to Mount Shu, our Beyond Sky Mountain will immediately suffer the wrath of Xianmen Tianzong. If that is the case, everyone will treat it as if I have really rebelled, capture me, and hand me over Xianmen Tianzong." Li Baidao looked up to the sky and sighed. "No matter what, Mount Shu is already right in front of us. This time, if we don't cooperate, our Beyond Sky Mountain will immediately be in danger of being destroyed. It is all a test of Xianmen Tianzong. Either we detain the people of Xianmen Tianzong, or Mount Shu will destroy our Beyond Sky Mountain, a force that is openly dependent on Xianmen Tianzong. Everyone, we have no choice. Before his voice died away, Li Baitao suddenly received a sound transmission using supernatural power. The people of Xianmen Tianzong have arrived. Chapter 829. When Li Baidao heard the voice transmission, he took a deep breath and looked around. Everyone, once the bow is shot, there is no turning back. This is something that has been decided long ago, and we cannot waver in the face of battle. Otherwise, we will only suffer. His people all nodded in agreement with Li Baitao's words. Senior Brother Sect Leader, the powerful cultivators of Mount Shu Sword Sect are on the mountain now. We have no choice. Li Baitao's gaze finally fell on Wu Yunliang. Wu Yunliang stroked his long beard and looked at Li Baitao. Slowly, he nodded. That's right. We've already agreed on this. We've been preparing for this moment for so many years. We can't let all our efforts go to waste. Li Baitao heaved a sigh of relief. Based on his understanding of Wu Yunliang, he was a decisive person. However, he had a strong sense of responsibility towards Beyond Sky Mountain. Now that he had pointed out everyone's current situation, even if Wu Yunliang couldn't completely side with Mount Shu Sword Sect, he shouldn't obstruct them. However, Li Baitao felt that something was wrong when he heard Wu Yunliang's words, which made his heart skip a beat. At this moment, a crack appeared in the void above Beyond Sky Mountain. Black Dragon Jieyu, Jade Dragon by Guang, Kuei Nyo King, and King Fei Lian appeared. On top of Black Dragon Jieyu's head stood a tall, skinny, dark-skinned, purple-clothed young man. He was the sixth disciple of Lin Feng, Li Yuanfang. After the trip to Yingxi, 2 years had passed in the Boundless World. He had cultivated day and night, and also in the mysterious Skytime Cave. He had already successfully passed the Yin Fire Tribulation and advanced to the middle stage of Golden Elixir. Li Yuanfang saw the spirit formation on the top of the mountain and nodded. No wonder I couldn't contact Sect Leader Wu. Sure enough, the sound transmission was blocked. As he was thinking, a shocking sword chi came from beyond Sky Mountain. It turned into heavy clouds that were extremely yin and soft, surrounding Li Yuanfang and the others. Mount Shu's Taiyin sword, Li Yuanfang, Jieyu, and the others all focused their gazes. Then, they saw that other than the gentle Taiyin sword way, there were also many condensed, fierce, and domineering sword lights crisscrossing between heaven and earth, forming a killing formation with the Taiyin sword. It was the fiercest and most tyrannical of the 6 meridian swords of Mount Shu, the Shaoshang sword. 2 figures flew out from beyond Heaven Mountain. The one in front was a middle-aged man dressed in embroidered robes. He had a hooked nose and a pair of sharp eyes. He was staring at Li Yuanfang and the others with eyes filled with hatred. It was Ning Lang, the honorable swordsman of Duanyue of Mount Shu's Shaoshang sword faction. During the sword trials of Tianjia Peak, Lin Feng's great son, Yin Emperor Dharmakaya, had shattered his primordial spirit incarnation with a single punch. If not for honorable swordsman Guan Chong, who was at the side, saving him in time, he would have been killed by that punch. All these years, Ning Lang had been living in seclusion in Mount Shu, recuperating from his injuries. Even so, he had not completely recovered his vitality. What made him feel even more despair was that Lin Feng's punch had injured the foundation of his primordial spirit. Even if he could recuperate from his injuries, he would not have any hope of returning to the void in this lifetime without a great opportunity. This made Ning Lang hate Lin Feng to the bone. At the same time, a seed of fear was planted in his heart. This seed took root and germinated, gradually turning into an inner demon that took root in Ning Lang's heart. Not only was he unable to move forward, but as a Shaoshang sword cultivator who was supposed to be ferocious and domineering, his cultivation even regressed. Therefore, Ning Lang's hatred for Xianmen Tianzong had already reached its peak. However, he was also afraid of Lin Feng. Although he was not sure of Lin Feng's exact situation, the hatred in his heart drove Ning Lang to take the initiative to ask for permission to come to Heaven's Beyond Mountain when Xianmen Tianzong made a slight move. The other person was a woman with an ice-cold expression. She looked ordinary, but her killing intent was overwhelming. She was also a great sword cultivator at the first tier of the primordial spirit transformation realm. Sword chi lingered around her like clouds and mist. Clearly, she cultivated the Tai-In sword of Mount Shu's 6 Meridian sword. The female sword cultivator's Tai-In sword unfolded, and dense clouds and mist shrouded Li Yuanfang and the rest. Not only did it cut off their path of retreat, but it also isolated them from the outside world at the same time. Ning Lang stared at Li Yuanfang and the rest and said in a hoarse voice, "Today, none of you can leave." Other than Jieyu, who was already in the advanced Demon King stage, White Light had gained a lot from the trip to Yingxi. She was already very talented, and after a long period of seclusion after returning to the mountain, she finally achieved the Dharma Idol and advanced to the advanced Demon King stage. Kuei Nyo King was still in the intermediate Demon King stage, but he had already reached the peak of the intermediate Demon King stage. He was only a step away from the advanced Demon King stage. If not for the sudden change at Yujing Mountain, he would have also started seclusion to break through the bottleneck. As for King Philian of the Wind God sect, he had been cultivating wholeheartedly on the mountain all these years. Not long ago, he had successfully advanced to the intermediate Demon King stage. With such a lineup, coupled with Lin Feng's personal disciple, Li Yuanfang, who was in the intermediate Golden Elixir period but whose actual combat power could not be measured by the cultivators in the Golden Elixir period, it was indeed enough to quell the internal strife at Heaven's Beyond Mountain. However, it was a different matter when facing 2 primordial spirit transformation realm sword cultivators from Mount Shu. If there was only one, they could at least fight back with everyone's combined strength. However, facing 2 at the same time, they would be directly crushed. However, Ning Lang and Jieyu quickly realized that something was wrong. The reactions of Li Yuanfang, Jieyu, and the others in front of them were really too dull. An ominous premonition arose in their hearts. In the next moment, the clouds and mist created by the female sword cultivator's Tai-In sword were torn apart by the raging flames. A domineering and ferocious tiger that was completely formed by bluish-purple flames, as big as a mountain, stared at them condescendingly with a pair of eyes that were filled with spirituality, as if they were real life. It made the 2 sword cultivators' hearts tremble. Nether evil emperor? This kind of cultivation. Both of their hearts sank at the same time. The eldest disciple of the Taoist sect's master, Xiao Yan, a valiant young man dressed in purple clothes with a black robe on the outside, appeared in the void. He had an imposing manner, and his eyes were cold. A faint sneer appeared at the corner of his mouth. "Yo, Mount Shu sword cultivator, long time no see." A black iron token floated above his head. The nether evil emperor that filled the sky turned into a bluish-purple sea of flames, causing the sky within a radius of 1,000 miles to burn. In the sea of flames, a tall figure was faintly discernible. It had 4 faces and 8 arms, and was extremely terrifying. Ning Lang's expression was ugly. He knew that the huge figure was Xiaoyan's heaven and earth avatar. If it was any other late-stage Yuanian cultivator that dared to be so arrogant in front of him, he would have already slashed out with the Shaoshang sword. But now that he was facing Xiao Yan, he could clearly feel that the heaven and earth avatar contained an extremely terrifying power, causing him to feel an extreme sense of danger. Looking at Xiao Yan, who had a faint sneer and ridicule on his face, Ning Lang felt a surge of anger. When he had reached the primordial soul realm, not to mention Xiao Yan, even Xiao Yan's grandfather and great-grandfather were still unknown. Calculating from the timeline of the vast 1,000 worlds, it was clear that just a few years ago, Xiao Yan was just a small cultivator that he could not even look up to. But now, with his late-stage Yuanian cultivation, he could actually look down on him, who was in the primordial soul realm. This made Ning Lang so depressed that he almost wanted to vomit blood. At this moment, a voice rang out from beyond Heaven Mountain. Although it is somewhat unexpected that the great disciple of Xian Min has personally made this trip, I have also specially come because of this. An even more astonishing sword intent soared into the sky, turning into clouds and mist. It revealed that the cultivation of the moon sword was much more profound than that of the female sword cultivator. In the void, a thin middle-aged man appeared. He was the former moon reflection sword venerable, the current new moon sword venerable, a great sword cultivator whose primordial soul realm had returned to the void realm. He looked at Xiao Yin and said indifferently, "Indeed extraordinary. With the help of the power of the treasure, a late-stage Yuanian cultivation can probably compete with my primordial soul realm. However, I have no interest in slowly exchanging blows with you today." The Moon Sword Venerable said to Ning Lang and Zhong Yin, "Duan Yu, Zhong Yin, leave this person to me. The two of you take down the others." He shook his head and looked at Xiao Yin. "It's a pity that you've appeared here. We can't restrict the matter to the area of beyond Heaven Mountain." Xiao Yin looked at the Moon Sword Venerable, and the disdain on his face became even stronger. "Oh, not bad. We've caught a big fish." The Moon Sword Venerable frowned slightly. Suddenly, a thought flashed through his mind, and he looked down. In the mountain ridges at the foot of Beyond Heaven Mountain, an old monk dressed in moon-white monk robes appeared. His hands were behind his back, and he looked up at the sky, which had already turned into a sea of flames, with a smile. His expression was calm and tranquil. He just stood on the ground calmly, and not a single bit of magic power or aura leaked out from his body. He was just like an ordinary old monk. However, at this moment, in the midst of the lofty mountains and lofty ridges, his figure, which was not very tall, seemed to be able to support the heavens and the earth. His entire body shone with light, illuminating the world. Seeing this old monk, the Moon Sword Venerable's heart immediately sank. Great virtue! He has also attained the second level of the Buddhist Golden Body realm and cultivated the Rulai Dharmic body. That old monk was Monk Great Virtue. He put his palms together and bowed to the Moon Sword Venerable. After the battle of vanquishing Buddhism in the past, Mount Shu finally has a new generation of Moon Sword Venerable. This old monk greets you here. As he spoke, Buddhist light soared into the sky from the top of his head, condensing into a huge Buddha Dharmic body. It was completely golden and emitted red light. This Buddha sat on a lotus and a full moon wheel, and the throne below it was carried by 8 peacocks. He held a lotus in his right hand and a bell in his left. It was the image of the boundless light, Rulai. In the past, when he was still at the Great Thunderclap Monastery, Monk Great Virtue was an esteemed monk at the peak of the first level of the Buddhist Golden Body realm. These years, he had been staying in Xianmen Tianzong as a guest and had been meticulously studying and cultivating the Buddhist Dharma. By sorting out the remnant chapters of the Mahavajrayana Sutra and the immovable Buddha Sutra that Lin Feng and the others had sorted out and collected, as well as having many interactions with Zhu Yi's boundless light Bodhi lamp, he had finally successfully cultivated the boundless light Rulai Dharmic body and advanced to the second level of the Buddhist Golden Body realm. It was understandable that Xiao Yin had come over, but Xiao Yin and Monk Great Virtue's actual battle prowess was equivalent to 2 experts at the second level of the primordial soul realm. For them to have come together because of the internal strife in heavens beyond mountains, this was completely abnormal. The expressions of the Moon Sword Venerable, Ning Lang, and Sword Venerable Heavy Smoke turned solemn. On heavens beyond mountains, a black-robed youth smiled and looked at the sky. At least I didn't lie about the military situation. At this moment, in the great hall at the peak of the mountain, Li Baitao and the others stared dumbfoundedly at the illusory scene of light and shadow in front of them. Originally, they wanted to use this to completely destroy the fighting spirit of Wu Yunliang and the others, but they did not expect to see such a scene that made them tremble in fear. Li Baitao was stunned and suddenly turned to look at Wu Yunliang. "You have already made up your mind to completely side with Xianmen Tianzong? Could it be that after the Kunlun Mountain Dharma Assembly, when you met the sect master of Xianmen sect alone, all these years, you were actually the one who beat the Shushan sword sect at their own game?" Wu Yunliang said calmly. This was the most important decision in my life. Whether it was right or wrong, I can't be sure. But as Juniorly said, there is no turning back. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.